The legendary Hollywood director. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451. Follow your heart. Subscribe. Vote. The next day, Lyman led the negotiation team to a business building next to Random House. The person in charge of the cultural company that represented Stephen King's novel copyright also warmly welcomed Lyman and his party. If you want to buy the adaptation rights, you must first get Stephen King's consent, but after agreeing, you still have to return to business negotiations. Appreciation is appreciation, and business is business. Stephen King is not a pedantic person. However, if you can get his consent, the price will be appropriately discounted. In other words, the upper limit of the negotiation is artificially lowered, but it is still a fantasy to think that you can get it without paying anything. Lyman never thought that he could get the works of Stephen King, a best-selling horror master, at a very low price. And because Stephen King had given a heads up in advance, and Lyman was very sincere in cooperating, although the bargaining was necessary, it was still controlled within a certain range. No one asked for a high price and was fooled into going to the pit. Both parties were testing their bottom line. $8 million. $5.5 million. That's impossible. The transfer fee for Stephen's novel's film copyright is basically this amount. I'm already very sincere, a middle-aged man on the other side said loudly. In fact, what he said was also true. Since Mr. Stephen informed him of this matter last night, he also had the attitude of reaching a cooperation. After all, the average market for the adaptation rights of best-selling authors in the industry is basically around tens of millions of dollars. If it weren't for the short length of the mist, it would be possible to raise the price by more than 10 million. However, he said that 8 million seemed to be a good deal. But negotiations can't always be based on what others say. As the chairman of a film company, Lyman must of course try his best to reduce the risk of the film and appropriately control the cost of shooting. If he can lower the price as much as possible, he will try to lower it to the lowest. Lyman did not speak. The negotiator next to him frowned and retorted, "Your company has already sold the TV rights of The Mist. It seems that you cannot ask for the market price for only the film rights. If we are responsible for all the film and television copyrights, we are of course willing to pay $8 million US. What do you think?" The middle-aged man's expression remained unchanged. That was more than 10 years ago. In another 8 or 9 years, we can also make up for this part. Well, the time limit for signing the copyright procedures for film and television adaptations is generally 20 years at most. After 20 years, the relevant copyrights will also return to Stephen King. The negotiation team continued to bargain. $6 million US. $7.5 million. It's still too expensive. It's just an adaptation of a movie. $6.5 million. The middle-aged man hesitated. It was not easy to get a business. If he promoted the cooperation as a senior agent entrusted by Stephen King, he could extract 8% of the profits from this transaction. Naturally, he wanted a higher price. But Stephen King had already spoken and agreed to transfer the adaptation rights, so he couldn't do anything wrong. Finally, he still insisted a little bit, and each of them took a half step back. $7 million US. It can't be less. Deal. Lyman's psychological price is about $8 million US. It's good enough to be able to lower the price by 1 million. The middle-aged man opposite heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. If the deal is done, he can also make a fortune. He stretched out his hand and said, "Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation." Then, all the intentions were agreed. The following trivial matters will naturally be handled by the people below to help Lyman with the procedures. In the United States, copyright issues must be re-identified at the Copyright Office after the change. In other words, it is difficult to regret after the change is confirmed because it has legal protection. Unless the deadline for signing the agreement expires, Stephen King can't sell it again. 3 days later, the adaptation rights of The Mist officially belonged to Firefly Pictures. Lyman parked the car in the company's underground parking lot and took Thomas out of the car and went upstairs. Occasionally, he met 1 or 2 employees of the company, and they would greet him enthusiastically. He treats the company's employees well. The salary is above the average level in the industry. The work is not very busy, and there are holidays every month. It's pretty good. When he went upstairs, he saw Nicolas Cage waiting in the office. He received an invitation from Lyman to play the leading role, so he immediately ended his holiday travel and rushed back to Los Angeles. As a first-line movie star with a guaranteed box office in the past 2 years, he still prefers to work with Lyman. Not only because he gets along with Lyman, but also because Lyman helped him when he was at his lowest point. Although he didn't say it, he was still grateful in his heart. And with his current status, making money is no longer so necessary. After all, as long as there is fame, it means that the resources of the film and television industry are automatically concentrated for him to choose. He understood this truth very early. So to be honest, he reduced his pay to participate in Lyman's works, because he recognized that Lyman could make him more famous and the reputation of his works would be better. Of course, there will be no honest people who can mix in this circle, but it is true that he has a good impression of Lyman. After all, they have worked together on 2 works, and no actor does not want to play a better work. I haven't seen you for a month. Why do you seem to have gained a lot of weight? In the office, Lyman joked to Cage as soon as he saw him. Haha, I haven't worked for a while, and I have less time to exercise. Cage was not embarrassed at all. As for gaining weight, it was because he ate too well. The familiar chat of several people soon disappeared. As for the topic of the new play The Mist, it was rarely mentioned. Cage had confidence in Lyman and didn't want to ask what the role was or what the script was like. He would know it anyway when Lyman wanted to say it. After all, Cage still understood how Lyman chose the actors for the role and would never compromise for some external factors unless he approved it. Of course, Lyman did the same. Without the pressure from the investors, he could shoot according to his own intentions. On the contrary, he became the investor himself and often gave suggestions to other projects. He also understood why the investors always liked to nag. After all, everyone has different ideas. Afterwards, the 3 went out for dinner again. At the dinner table, the topic returned to the new work. Your character is a painter, calm and focused. As for the image, you should grow a little beard during this period and try to experience the feeling of calming down and painting. As for the story, it is an adaptation of Stephen King's novel The Mist. You can find the original work first and think about it. The main line of the script is still the same, and there are not many deletions and revisions. The Mist. Okay, I see. Well, ask your agent to come to the company in a few days, sign the contract first, and reserve a schedule around February next year. When it comes to talking about money, it is still the agent who should do it, so as not to hurt the relationship, and there is also a way to turn things around. Chapter 452 Demand, Subscriptions, Tickets. Another day passed, and Firefly Pictures met with Cage's agent, a senior partner from an unknown faction of CIA, to discuss the terms and conditions of the performance. Cage has been very lucky recently. The box office of several movies he has participated in has been a big hit, and even the works in which he made a cameo appearance have also performed well. According to the market prospects, the revenue of the offer can exceed $20 million. Lyman did not want to cheat him. Although the basic salary could not be so much, the 10% box office share in North America and the 5% of fine revenue in North America in the contract were enough to make up for the difference in salary. In other words, everyone is betting on the box office of the movie. If the movie is a big hit, Cage can get more money, otherwise, it will be less. In theory, this kind of cooperation is also the most common means of sharing risks in Hollywood. In the end, Cage's performance terms were set at a basic salary of $10 million, paid in 3 installments, and he could participate in the profit sharing in North America when the movie was released. Then everyone gathered together again to celebrate the completion of the cooperation. Nicolas Cage was very happy, and it was inevitable that he drank a little too much. Lyman helped to send him home again. This guy still lives in Beverly Hills. He sold 2 properties to Lyman and James 1, and he still has 2 left to live in. And there are not many people in his family. After divorcing his ex-wife, there is only one housekeeper to take care of the house. Seeing that Cage was drunk and couldn't walk steadily, he hurriedly followed and helped him in. December 26th. New York trip was officially taken off the screen in North America. Perhaps because there were too many new films in the Christmas season and the competition was too fierce. New York trip did not break through 400 million as expected in the market, but was stuck at around 360 million and could not make any more progress. Warner saw that it was not selling well, so it gave up after a few days. After all, the movie has gained a lot, and it is nothing to not win the honor of the annual box office champion in North America. Moreover, the year is coming to an end, and the Oscar-winning work $1 Million Baby also needs to start its own awards season operation journey. One of the prerequisites for running for the Oscars is that works that have been screened in North American theaters in the previous year can participate in the competition. Time is running out for $1 Million Baby. Anyway, December every year is the time when a large number of literary and artistic works appear in the market, and this year is no exception. For example, Finding Neverland starring Johnny Depp and Kate Winslet, The Aviator in which Prince Leonardo DiCaprio is not absent again, Hotel Rwanda starring Don Cheadle, Ray starring Jack Fox, a biographical film. Since Lemon had the idea of a new work, he has been in high spirits and seems very motivated. He doesn't want to sleep until the early morning every night, and he is very fast in creating the script shots. Sometimes Ryan would tease him that he didn't care so much about the TV series The Walking Dead when he was busy, and he was still a nominal producer. But Lemon also has his own reasons. I'm in control of the project, and I don't need to shoot and produce it. Then you say, I'm also a producer, why do I need to go to the crew to help share the preparation? Or I can go and control it after a while. The more capable, the more work, so you should work harder. Lemon comforted. Let's not talk about this. It's good for you to focus on your own project. But what does Warner say? How will $1 Million Baby be operated? Lemon heard this and asked in confusion, how else can it be operated? Public relations, spending money, bribing the judges. Which crew doesn't do this? No, I want to ask about pushing it into theaters for screening. That's simple. If you can't promote it on a large scale, just pick a few theaters with better addresses to screen it, control the number of screens, accumulate word of mouth for the movie, and then wait until February next year, when you want to canvass for votes, then concentrate resources on public relations. Ryan didn't have much experience in this area, and asked quickly, I understand that a small number of theaters can accumulate word of mouth to avoid too many audiences and reduce the critic's impression of the movie. But if we don't promote it on a large scale, will it affect the theater's attendance and make the box office results too ugly? Lemon laughed. Do you think the judges are affected by the box office? They look at the work, not the popularity. If that were the case, then the Oscars wouldn't need judges. Wouldn't it be enough to just give the awards to the best performing and well-received works? Then what's the point of this selection? Ryan said, shaking his head and frowning. I was thinking, the benefits of this award are not that great. Why do so many people want to compete for it? Come on. How many people are supported by the public relations expenses of an Oscar selection? How many people in the industry benefit after winning the award? Besides, sometimes there is no need for direct monetary rewards. How many people can't even get fame with money? You are not an actor or director. How can you know their thoughts? This Oscar has nothing to do with you. Ryan was stunned and speechless. The next day passed quickly in the hurried preparations. On the 28th, Lemon dressed up, had breakfast, and drove to the Warner Film Building. It was the morning rush hour, and there were too many vehicles on the road. Several main roads were blocked there. Lemon and his follower Benjamin Joseph drove on and off, and it took a lot of time to arrive before 9 o'clock. Regarding the issue of how to do public relations for the Oscars, Harvey Weinstein, who is a member of the Jewish community and has a lot of connections, is an expert in this area, and the 6 majors are not bad either. Anyway, they will push a few films into the competition every year. In the reception room, several executives from the distribution department have arrived, and Barry Meir also took time to participate in the discussion. After Lemon came in, he first exchanged some courtesy with everyone. It took a little effort to get down to business. In addition to better public relations to attract votes, everyone was also discussing the main awards to compete for. Sometimes, even if you know you can't win, it's good to focus on the best adapted screenplay, supporting actor and actress, and other awards that are slightly lower in level. However, due to the victory at the Cannes Film Festival, the group is still very confident in the quality of Million Dollar Baby. Go all out to compete for Best Picture and Best Director. You can also try your best for Best Actor. Mr. Eastwood is quite popular with those contemporary judges. If you ask me, I'd better go all out for Best Picture. Winning the most valuable award will make publicity and promotion very convenient, and the benefits can be maximized. No, get more nominations first, and then focus on publicizing all the awards you can participate in. What do you mean, Lemon? Barry Meir asked. Your ideas are all good, but the more awards it wins, the better it proves the film is. The actors should also listen to their own opinions. Well, the latter sentence is what Lemon really wants to express. He doesn't really need Oscars to gild his reputation now, but several actors, except Eastwood who has already won 2 Best Actor awards, don't need much. Morgan Freeman and Hilary Swank both need it. Chapter 453 Appreciation, Subscription, Votes Required. Okay, the film's award PR will mainly focus on the Best Picture, Best Director and Best Actor. Barry Meir waved his hand and said in an unquestionable tone, no matter whether we can win the award in the end, we should get the nomination first. Build momentum. Is there anything I can cooperate with? Lemon asked. Let's talk about it after the Golden Globe Awards. There is no need to win over the judges now. Barry Meir said, looked at his watch and said, if everyone agrees, I have something to do, and I will leave first. After everyone exchanged polite words, he nodded and left. The total conversation took less than an hour to set the rules. Joseph on the side just watched, and several Warner executives also walked out of the reception room one after another. Lemon looked relaxed, pulled Joseph over, and whispered, I will let you do the contact with Warner in the future. You should get to know the senior executives of Warner first. Joseph nodded in agreement. Now the internal affairs of the company are managed very well by Joseph, and some rules have been established. Lemon is more and more recognized for his ability and takes the initiative to add responsibilities to him. You know, the network of cooperation established between Lemon and Warner is a network that Joseph could not match when he was a senior executive of Columbia. Joseph is also a smart man. When he heard Lemon say this, he knew that his position in the company would rise again. Although his expression did not fluctuate much at the moment, he was still happy in his heart. As a senior employee, who doesn't want to move up his salary? After discussing the operation of Million Dollar Baby to compete for the Oscar, Lyman and Joseph did not stay in the Warner building for long. Just after noon, they found a few acquaintances to have a meal outside, introduced them to Joseph, and then went back to the company. Gyro and Ryan and others are still busy with the TV series The Walking Dead. So, Lemon arranged for Thomas to assist in the preparation of the crew of the movie The Mist. The total budget of this project is about $58 million, which is 3 times higher than the previous version. After all, the original director could not get any investment. Everything was done frugally, and the cast was also the kind that had no market appeal. The money was earned entirely by the high quality of the movie. Lead actors like Thomas Jane and Marsha are not considered to be the backbone among second-tier actors due to their image, and let alone special effects and scenery, which are not bonus points. They are still a little short of being average. Therefore, raising the budget to nearly $60 million is the ideal production cost for this work, and the actors are the hardest hit area for replacement. It has been confirmed that Cage will play the protagonist David, a painter. Eva will play Amanda, a fanatic of religious beliefs. The black uncle can be played by Samuel Jackson. Well, the future director of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a supporting role Emperor, and the effect of the play is very good. As for the remaining few who don't have so many roles, you can save some money and pick some third-rate actors to play. Well, they have both traffic and performance, and the combination is very reasonable. 28th evening. There will be a screening of Million Dollar Baby in the early morning today. Warner strictly adheres to the strategy of controlling the reputation of movies with a small number of theaters. Only less than 15 theaters were taken from several major theater chains, and the number of screenings was not high. Not only that, not many passers-by noticed that the film had already started previews because there was not even a newsworthy announcement in the newspaper. It was extremely calm. Of course, several other Oscar-winning films also adopted similar strategies. Everyone needs to control word of mouth and cannot release them in a big way. Moreover, when Million Dollar Baby officially debuted in the North American market for the first time, Warner did not hold any premieres or anything like that. It just let the theaters release tickets. Starting from 9 o'clock, in less than an hour, the tickets were snapped up by fans of the long-awaited works of director Lyman. Lyman actually thinks this phenomenon is very reasonable. After all, with the word of mouth accumulated from the previous works, he still has some appeal. And as early as mid this year, the scene of Million Dollar Baby being screened in Cannes had already spread to North America, and many people were waiting. So when the people from Warner told him that the tickets were sold out, Lyman was still very calm. Lyman's new work is in theaters? Just a preview? Tickets for the early morning. Okay, leave the review of the new movie to me. Okay, that's it. Beep, beep. The call was hung up, but Bella began to look forward to it. As a film critic and a patented writer for the Chicago Daily News, Bella would be very willing to watch a movie that would be released in the early hours of the morning, as long as it was directed by Lyman. However, the waiting time is tiring. Entering from a few theaters, Bella watched the seats slowly fill up while waiting for the main film to be shown. At this time, for such a movie, with very little publicity, there are still so many audiences and fans supporting it. Bella didn't think that this would be the case only in her theater. So, director Lyman has a good reputation. Bella thought with some joy. I heard that this film won the Palme d'Or. All of director Lyman's works are pretty good. I can watch them over and over again. I also bought a disc of Bad Guys. I want to watch it again when I have free time. Is it the same for you? Me too. I wonder what kind of viewing experience this one will have. Moviegoers gradually entered the theater, and the not-so-large theater suddenly became lively. Not to mention that many viewers themselves are very concerned about Lyman's new works, so they will not notice the fact that the preview has been opened. Bella listened to the discussions of the people around her and unconsciously changed to a comfortable position to sit in her seat. It's very comfortable. This is how it should be to watch a good movie. The headlights above the head went out one by one, but the dark big screen was shining. The movie started. I hope it will be another good movie. At the beginning, the bleak texture of the lens was pulled into the story of the 30-year-old female boxer Maggie. Frankie, the owner and coach of the boxing gym who is in his twilight years and has a bad family relationship, has even abandoned the boxers he trained after encountering various setbacks in life. When Frankie could only see his apprentice getting the gold belt on TV, he realized that what his old friend said made sense. Life is hard. We have to be harder. Behind this, Frankie was also afraid that the boxers would get injured and overprotected the boxers. Bella also found it hard to imagine that such a simple story would be controlled so smoothly by director Lyman. She thought she knew Lyman's style of work. But when Lyman abandoned the warm-colored lighting, abandoned the fancy lens editing and transitions, there were no handsome and beautiful actors, and there were not even any shocking scenes and props. Compared with his previous works, it is bland. The only thing retained is the detailed portrayal of the characters and the narrative technique of telling the story. Awesome. After watching most of the movie, Bella was not only immersed in the plot, but also appreciated the changes in Lyman's shooting techniques. Chapter 454 Differentiation, Subscriptions, Votes Required. Million Dollar Baby is not a movie suitable for the general public. In other words, a large part of the audience does not like to be educated when watching movies. Society has already beaten them enough, and most people want to relax a little. However, the work cannot entertain the audience, and it is not refreshing to watch. Even after watching it, you feel uncomfortable and ruin your good mood for the day. It is considered to be of good quality if you can avoid scolding people. Therefore, it is natural that the screening cannot be expanded. Even so, some audiences began to be disappointed. These people are all fans of movies such as Bad Guys, Little Love, and Fury. They came to support and grabbed tickets late at night just to see director Lyman's new work in advance. What is this? Art film? I came here to watch this. Even if Million Dollar Baby is a slightly different artwork, its own attributes make people not like it. However, these people still insisted on not leaving halfway, which was regarded as giving face to the director they once liked. Of course, some people are not very satisfied, and some people like it very much. Since the day when the art of film was born, there has never been a work that can satisfy all audiences. Then, a bigger turning point came. On the big screen, Maggie was crippled by a shameless beating when facing the last light heavyweight champion. In slow motion, Maggie's neck hit the small chair for resting hard, and it seemed that the sound of the cervical vertebrae could be heard. At this moment, Hilary Swank's acting skills were very good, and the painful emotions could be transmitted through the screen. In other words, good performance itself is also an art form, but under such direct lens details, some viewers also felt their breathing began to quicken. That was because they had an immersive feeling for Maggie's experience, a kind of transmitted pain and pity. I haven't seen this actor before. He acted so well. Yeah, he's a good actor. The discussion of audience friends was attracted by the development of the story again in a blink of an eye. The charm of Million Dollar Baby also began to slowly emerge. It is a very unconventional inspirational movie. Maggie, who trained hard, did not shine in the boxing ring in the end. She was like a meteor, briefly passing through the sky and then forgotten by people. But she never regretted her choice. Even though she was lying on the hospital bed like a corpse, she was still tough. Although the movie is about women, it has been expressing a life attitude that is more manly than men. You can bet everything for something that others can't understand. But a good movie has an ending after all. Before such a story ends, it always makes the audience sigh a little. Especially when Maggie begged for death and wanted Coach Frankie to execute it. Frankie was confused, self-blaming, painful, and reluctant. He went to church to pray and confide in the priest, even though Frankie never believed in Jesus. The priest told him that, if you do this, you will be completely lost and fall into the abyss, and all the suffering will be left to God. Frankie muttered to herself, but she didn't ask God, she was asking me. I'm the only one who can help her. When Frankie kissed Maggie, added adrenaline to the intravenous drug, and then unplugged the respiratory system, this is the fastest way to suffer less pain. When Maggie closed her eyes quietly and smiled, everything calmed down again. The audience in the theater felt as if something had touched their hearts, and the emotional people's eyes were wet instantly. Frankie left, out of the sight of all the people he knew. After that night, he didn't even say hello. It seemed that, just as the priest said, he would bear pain by doing this, and the worms of self-blame that were lost in the abyss would gnaw at his heart bit by bit until he died. The movie finally ended. Several girls with poor psychological endurance couldn't help crying, thinking that this ending was too cruel. Although other audiences didn't react so strongly, they also felt stuffy and uncomfortable. When the lights came on again, the screen went dark. Bella wrote in her shorthand book, "Watch this movie with a strange name, Million Dollar Baby. You should watch it if you encounter setbacks, difficulties, and are anxious about the future." Although the color tone of the movie is not warm at all, it can give people hope, although most of the emotions from beginning to end are suppressed. Some dilapidated boxing gyms, often sweaty boxers, and scarred bodies are not aesthetically pleasing. But these are the vast majority of ordinary boxers, and the spectators will only become more crazy when blood is spilled on the boxing ring, which is also scary. But the movie talks about a lot, and includes more: dreams, death, hope, and despair, as well as emotions and love. These themes are always old, talked about the most, but always fresh, as grand as the entire sky covering everything, and extremely small, often floating in everyone's heart. The protagonist of the movie is a 30-year-old, poor and destitute person who has lost her family, but she has a crazy love for boxing in her heart, a love that she has nothing. Just like a narration in the movie, if there is a trick in boxing, then this trick is to keep fighting, surpass the limit of endurance, surpass broken ribs, ruptured kidneys and detached retinas. And bet everything, remember, everything. The heroine is such a person. The scene that impressed me the most was that she was sitting on an empty bus returning home late at night. The city neon lights were like a slowly flowing river of lights, but in her eyes there was nothing prosperous, only a little bit of love that seemed so paranoid to others. After watching the movie, I'm still thinking about such a person. No one else has turned all the loneliness into efforts to continue boxing like her. I hope that I can still watch this movie when I encounter confusion in the future, because this 30-year-old girl will tell me how to be a brave and strong person. Million Dollar Baby is also more inspiring than most inspirational stories. In this world, not everyone can become the protagonist of the times. We should learn to accept our mediocrity, but what we should be unwilling to accept is our attitude towards life. We should face it head on instead of always avoiding it, because living itself is swimming against the current. Keep moving forward, and forward all the time, until you fight my way out. Life should not promote the theory of results. We also need this spirit of the old man and the sea. The attitude of the strong conveyed in the movie is to still love life after realizing the truth of life. Chapter 455. Joe Bernthal. Subscribe, vote. After the midnight show ended, several cinema chains specifically counted the attendance that night, but just as Bella saw with her own eyes, the attendance of theaters in several cities was close to full. But this is no longer the news that Lyman needs to pay attention to all the time. After the Cannes Film Festival ended, and the goal of the film's Oscar was determined, he put it aside. Anyway, no matter how high or low the attendance is, for the judges, the factors that can affect the outcome of the vote are not the most important. And because of the control of the number of screenings, it is definitely not profitable. Unless after winning the award, there will be another wave of strong publicity and promotion with the heat of the Oscars, in order to make a big box office. At 10 AM on December 30th, under the joint operation of investors such as Firefly Pictures and Constantine Pictures, after all the characters of the first season of The Walking Dead were determined, a launch conference was held immediately. There were so many media invited to the scene and independent media people who came uninvited, and the flashlights never stopped. Of course, Lyman also went to the scene to promote. It is a good way to expand some hot traffic for the new series again. After the press conference, Lyman took Garsha, one of the deputy directors of the production department, who was also an old man from Rodrian Pictures, to the set to have a look. Seeing Lyman bringing people over, Gyro greeted them with a group of crew members. He introduced them. This is the deputy director Comeen, and this is the deputy factory manager in charge of props. The people Gyro mentioned were all members of his studio, and the rest were familiar to Lyman, who were all employees of the production department of Firefly Pictures. The group exchanged pleasantries with each other, and then everyone went to visit the set together. But to be honest, the company's The Walking Dead project crew is luxurious. Needless to say, director Gyro has very good production ability and his shooting concept is also unique. The shooting team is the most experienced one, so there is no need to worry about mistakes in costumes, sets or props. Afterwards, Gyro took deputy director Comeen to try to shoot a segment. The director group was divided into two teams. One team shot the hospital scene indoors, and the other team went to the street not far away to shoot the daily scenes of the town residents. In this way, the speed of filming of the Gyro can be really fast. And when this guy was busy selecting actors, he did not forget to make more preparations. For example, various character models have already discussed several sets of plans with the makeup and costume groups, and even drew detailed storyboard scripts like filming a movie to direct the photography and lighting teams. More importantly, many screenwriters often temporarily delete the focus of the characters, or add or reduce scenes, based on the feedback of the audience when writing TV scripts. But Lyman doesn't care about this kind of shooting method often used by American drama crews. After all, there is one episode a week, and sometimes some paragraphs are scolded by the audience, and there is time to relay the main line of the story. But in the TV production of Firefly Pictures, the script will not be modified once it is finalized. It must have a beginning and an end from the beginning, and the pits dug can be filled, and more attention is paid to the integrity and fluency of the story. In addition, the style of the film and the progress of shooting are controlled by the Gyro, and it is unlikely to make mistakes. Of course, only producers like Lyman have the confidence to do this. Because he has a lot of considerations when choosing a drama, the story itself is easy to be colorful. so he only needs to manage the personnel direction and let the right people shoot the right works. The specific production work will be handled by the shooting director. After all, whether it is Gyro or Zack Snyder, they are all talents who can take charge of production work. After shooting a scene, Gyro pulled Lemon over to see the effect. Lemon said helplessly, "You don't have to worry about me, just shoot according to your own ideas. Since I chose you as the director, I naturally believe that you can shoot it well. Just pretend that I don't exist. My task is to come and see if there will be any problems on the set." "That's good," Gyro muttered and sat back behind the director's monitor. In this way, Gyro also knew that Lemon was maintaining his authority on the set as a director. If he listened to Lemon in everything, then he would have no sense of existence. Perhaps because they are both directors, Lemon, like Luc Besson, will know what to pay attention to when there is no mistake in the shooting. As for the selected actors, except for the last round, where Lemon gave advice, most of them were selected by Gyro and Ryan, such as Andrew Lincoln, Norman Reedus, Stephen Yeun, Laurie Holden. The only thing worth mentioning is that when the roles were finally selected, Lemon pushed Jon Bernthal. This guy had played in Fury before, and he was considered to be one of the actors with a good image. He looked handsome when dressed, and had muscular bodies when undressed. But he was not handsome enough to attract attention. Moreover, this guy did not have many connections in the circle, nor did he have many resources. He often ran around in the crews of the two circles of movies and TV series. Basically, as long as there was an opportunity to participate, he would accept it. Compared with his ability, his salary was underestimated. This time, after Lemon looked at the list, he directly appointed him to play the small-town policeman Sean Welsh, who was considered to be a role with a lot of scenes among the protagonists. "Bernthal, come here." Lemon waved at him. Jon Bernthal trotted over in the envious eyes of several actors. Although Lemon did not often appear in the crew, no one would underestimate it, because the latter is already a figure that cannot be ignored in the Hollywood director circle, not to mention that this drama is invested by his company, and he also serves as a producer. For these actors, he has the power of life and death. Some actors even wondered whether to come up and say hello to get familiar with him, but they didn't know his temperament. What if he was disgusted by being approached? Once he hesitated, or Lemon didn't come to the actors at all. These people just watched Jon Bernthal chatting with Lemon not far away. Just as he remembered, Jon Bernthal is quite suitable for playing roles such as soldiers and policemen. Just like his experience in Band of Brothers, the long-term intensive training has made him have the same flavor as soldiers who have received military training. Every move has that feeling. "How is it? How do you feel about the crew?" "Very good, thank you Mr. Lemon for giving me this opportunity." Jon Bernthal smiled lightly. Lemon also smiled. "This is because you are suitable for this role. I noticed you when we were filming Fury. Well, you are very good. Keep up this state." "Don't worry, I will. I exercise every day. People who pursue progress will never lack opportunities. I hope I will have the opportunity to work with you again in the future." Lemon did not hide his admiration for him. He likes actors with a correct professional attitude, which is much better than those traffic actors who like to stir up hype all day and try every means to stay in the media center. Chapter 456 James Wan's new horror film. Please subscribe and vote. Late at night, in a mansion on the right side of Beverly Hills. All the rooms were dark, except for the bedroom on the second floor on the east side, which was illuminated by a pale yellow light. In the room, James Wan was wearing light blue pajamas and sitting on a soft sofa, rubbing his forehead with both hands, with a few sweat stains faintly visible on his face. He tried to empty his mind, but still felt extremely uncomfortable. Over the years, he often thought of some messy things in his dreams, and those bizarre and depressing dreams often put him under great mental pressure. James Wan was not as calm as usual. His eyebrows were squeezed together, and the muscles on his face seemed to be pulled to reveal an ugly smile. He squinted his eyes slightly, but said with a smile in a bitter way, "I think I have a new idea again." Ray Warnell was also there. Their rooms were very close. "You should see a psychiatrist." "Really?" Ray Warnell suggested sincerely. He said this when they were in college together. "It's not like I haven't seen it. I just don't agree with what those people say." Well, witnessing death too early in childhood caused stress and psychological trauma. This is also the reason why James Wan often has strange dreams. Forget it, let's not talk about this. You just called me over to discuss the script of your new work. What do you want to shoot next? Of course a horror movie. What about the story? I think that if we want to make a horror movie, we must first scare ourselves, so those scenes that even scare ourselves can be added to the main line of the story. Scare yourself? If even we ourselves are not scared, why would the audience be scared? James Wan asked back. Okay, but what about the characters? How do you design them? Well, plots like ghosts killing people. Do you think the audience will be scared? Is this what you just dreamed about? Ray Warnell sighed. You are always like this. Whatever you think in your dreams, you always like to record it in the script. Isn't that a bad thing? Those chaotic dreams are also the source of my creative inspiration. Ray Warnell lowered his head, waited for a while, and then gently suggested, you should listen more to the advice of the psychologist. Avoid anxiety and worry, calm your mind, and exercise more. We can already make a movie, and you are still working so hard. Perhaps it is because of the daily daydreaming and thinking about the script that he has nightmares when he goes home at night. James Wan said impatiently, is there anyone who never dreams? But no one always has nightmares. Okay, I've forgotten the main thing. I asked you to come here to discuss how to write a new script. We should focus on this. Tell me more about your ideas. Ray Warnell had to follow James Wan's meaning and said, let's straighten out the story first. Yesterday, $1 Million Baby got about 80% of the attendance rate in more than a dozen theaters. This shows that the film has achieved certain results in the successful shaping of word of mouth, and Warner's plan is also being carried out step by step. Therefore, when Lyman woke up, he saw the news about this in the newspaper he subscribed. The report started with the achievements of the work in Cannes, and then turned to say that the film has entered the North American theater chain, but only a few theaters have screenings, and tickets are difficult to buy. What's more interesting is that the content also includes internal screening data of various theaters and real-time interviews and evaluations of moviegoers, as if to highlight the point of the article. $1 Million Baby has been unanimously recognized by many movie fans. Lyman read the newspaper while eating breakfast and felt that there were too many things on it. It really deserves to be the beacon of the democratic world. The masses can only see what they can see. Moreover, this method of using data to praise is not the first of Warner. When Paramount was not defeated by the antitrust law, they were the masters of this. However, although the source of the article is very problematic, the data listed above is not exaggerated. $1 Million Baby has been online for almost 5 days, and the average attendance rate has never dropped below half. Counting Warner's promotion behind the scenes, the road to the Oscar for this work is still quite smooth. Many film critics in the industry are shouting for it, and almost all the awards of the Film Critics Association have been won. Then, Lyman went to the company again. In addition to the still airing Prison Break, which is approaching the end of its first season, and the production of The Walking Dead, the company also focuses on the preparation of The Crew of the Mist. There is also Christopher Nolan, who also completed all the filming of Batman Begins half a month ago, and officially started post-editing with the cooperation of Warner. Lyman went to the production department and found the executive director Blake, who had just returned from supervising the production of the Batman crew. In the next period of time, you need to help me make a shooting schedule for the Mist project. The most important thing is budget control, and a detailed plan is also required. Thomas probably can't handle these trivial matters alone. The Crew of the Mist is independently undertaken by Firefly Pictures. The behind-the-scenes stuff is easy to say and can be prepared quickly, but there will still be a lot of problems to be solved for the preparatory work of the entire crew. As for the overall planning work, Blake Cole should be better at it. He used to be mainly responsible for this area at Rodriguez Pictures. This time, the crew of Batman can also show his ability, and many things are handled well. Christopher Nolan often praised him in front of Lyman. Okay, I'll get started on this as soon as possible, Blake Cole said lightly without any hesitation. However, do you have any ideas about props and scenery? What's the style? I have a storyboard script for the script. You can take it to the crew's behind the scenes team to discuss it. However, remember to find a suitable location for outdoor shooting. We still need a lot of passers-by actors, and for the sake of authenticity and life, I hope that the local residents of the shooting location will be willing to cooperate with the shooting. The crew will pay the salary, but it will be negotiated according to the normal industry price. It would be very troublesome to shoot this movie on the set. So if it is not necessary, Lyman must shoot on the spot. After all, the conditions in the studio cannot meet the shooting requirements of the work. From this point of view, a suitable shooting location is also a key target for investigation. After giving the order, Blake Cole left. Lyman thought about the movie and felt it necessary to contact the special effects company. Otherwise, it would be too slow to do this after the crew has completed the preparations. Special effects rendering also takes time. Chapter 457 Special Effects Work, Subscriptions, Votes. The next morning, Lyman asked Thomas to come again. When they met, this guy still complained habitually, saying that the preparation work could be handed over to others, but he couldn't do it. But Lyman ignored these. This guy didn't have much ambition. If Lyman hadn't forced him to take on more work, he would definitely not be willing to take over the production rights. However, they knew each other from humble beginnings, and Lyman still wanted to help him. He laughed and said, "Life is a constant struggle. Why are you always idle? There is no American dream in your thinking." Thomas replied, "What dream? I can make money to support myself." Then, Lyman started to talk nonsense again, giving a few random advice. In short, Thomas must make progress. If you don't make progress, you will be sorry for the country, the people, and the support of your hometown. Is it easy for us to gain a foothold in the United States? We can't slack off. Thomas' face turned green, and he had no choice but to agree to all of them. Lyman stopped preaching and giving chicken soup. Thomas scratched his head. "Then why did you come to me?" Lyman patted his shoulder. "The organization wants to give you a task." Before Lyman finished speaking, he was interrupted by Thomas. "No, I'm busy enough and can't squeeze out any time." "Really? You can find someone else." "Ryan, Gosha, anyone can do it, but I can't." "Can't? Can't." Lyman patted his shoulder with more strength, patting him once for every word he said. Thomas finally begged for mercy. "Forget it. Forget it. You tell me what it is. I'll do it. I'll do it." Lyman stopped and smiled again. After explaining the situation to Thomas, he breathed a sigh of relief. "So you're going to find a special effects company to discuss the filming. I'll go with you." Lyman also said, "There are only a few famous special effects companies in Hollywood. I thought I'd go to Digital Domain to see what their quotes are. I heard from someone yesterday that Digital Domain's business capabilities are very good and the price is not the most expensive." Digital Domain? Isn't that James Cameron's special effects studio? Should we go to this one? James Cameron is a well-known technology fanatic, and more than half of his wealth has been invested in Digital Domain. After all, at this time, every special effects company is doing a loss-making business. First, it's because the competitive pressure is too great. There are too many companies on the market that can do movie special effects, but there is too little business demand. Second, it's because the application of new technologies always requires continuous investment in research to produce results. Lyman nodded. Digital Domain's business level is still very strong. We can go to this company first. What do you want? There are several shots in a movie that need special effects processing. Any requirements? Can we go to your company first? Of course. After Lyman and Thomas called Digital Domain to invite them, a man came to greet them not long after. This white man who looked a little prematurely aged, dressed in a typical Silicon Valley practitioner simple style, and even didn't pay much attention to his clothes was called Bossy. He said he was 28 years old, but he looked like he was 35 or 36. He was not very polite. After figuring out that Lyman and Thomas were the kind of people who had business needs, he immediately agreed to take them to the company to have a look. The group drove from Burbank and took about 20 minutes to get to Digital Domain's office. But when they arrived, Thomas had some doubts that he couldn't hide. In fact, Lyman was also a little surprised. According to what Bossy pointed out, this area was a very ordinary residential area, with the kind of desolation and lack of infrastructure unique to the suburbs of Los Angeles, and the house type was also a little old. Is this the place? Thomas couldn't help asking. Yeah, it's just a little ahead. Boshi was more natural. The three of them continued to meander along the damp alley. The cluttered buildings could easily make people lose their way. Everything looked inconspicuous, as if it was impossible for a company like Digital Domain to be located here. Unfortunately, Thomas was disappointed. Digital Domain's headquarters was really here. After walking for about 3 or 4 minutes, there was a slightly shabby sign on the upper left of a low building. It was the name of the studio. Boshi made a phone call before pushing the door open. After walking in, there was not even a reception desk, or perhaps Boshi was their receptionist and also acted as a guest receptionist. Anyway, what Lyman could see was a wide space like a warehouse, with a bunch of desks gathered on both sides. It was also a cluttered style. The whole place highlighted the aesthetics of a unique technical geek, but there was no trace of artistic atmosphere. "Good morning, Mr. Lyman." A white man in his 30s, wearing glasses and holding a cup of coffee, walked over quickly and greeted enthusiastically. "They have business needs, probably a new movie." Boshi stepped forward and reminded in a low voice. Afterwards, the reception became more enthusiastic. They walked around and found that except for the unremarkable layout and decoration, it had everything it should have, and the area was quite large. There were several similar warehouses in the back where people worked. There were not too many employees, but not too few. Perhaps it was because this was a suburb that the office area could be so large. It was even more spacious than Lyman's Firefly Pictures. After walking around, the few people sat in another office. After Lyman carefully explained his purpose and his needs, the coffee man said, "You want us to take over the special effects work for the movie. This is just right. We don't have any important projects recently, so we can focus on you." "What about the price?" It depends on the workload and time. If you put more effort into it, it will be more expensive. If it is easy to do, it will be less." Similar to the monster shots in the Alien series and the rendering of several scenes, the total workload should not be large. "Can you make a concept map first? We need to see the effect before we decide whether to hire you to participate in the production of the project." Lyman said. "Of course, but we also need a concept map. How much does it cost?" Lyman interrupted. 5 working days, $80,000 US. "What if I'm not satisfied with the rendering?" We will definitely be attentive and have multiple sets of alternatives," the coffee man explained weakly. Letting him, a science graduate, to negotiate is really lacking in momentum. The basic topic direction can be led by Lyman. "Well, let's do this. I'll pay a deposit of $50,000 first, and then $30,000 if you're satisfied. What do you think?" Lyman didn't ask about alternative plans, and he couldn't make people sure what would happen. He just gave his conditions. "Well, that's fine. Come back in 5 days." Chapter 458 Dead Silence. Please subscribe and vote. James Wan walked in the corridor of Firefly Pictures with some joy. Since he had the idea of a new work that day, he and Ray Warnell spent several days writing part of the script outline and character settings. It has been 2 years since he directed Saw 1, and his desire to be a director has become stronger in his heart. After all, being a producer is not the job he wants to do most. He still wants to be a director and make the works he wants. In the company, he is the first old man to turn to, but in terms of production experience and industry qualifications, he is neither high nor low. The box office is not as good as Zack Snyder, the strength is not as good as Nolan, and the art production is not necessarily as good as Gyro. He feels that his position in the company is becoming less and less important, and he is also very anxious. Going up to the 3rd floor, James Wan is still thinking about how to shoot the new work and who to find actors. In the building, a group of company employees are busy. A familiar deputy director of the production department met James Wan, smiled and greeted him, and asked him to sit down. The company's competitive pressure is still great, and these deputy directors also need results to consolidate their positions. Where did the achievements come from? Of course, it was the film and television projects. Coincidentally, he was in charge of a part of the work in James Wan's Saw series. James Wan saw a lot of information in the office, most of which was about the information of the Oscar judges, and asked curiously, "What are you doing?" "Oh, this." We need to assist Blue Butterfly Pictures in public relations with these judges, and Warner will also organize a cocktail party. I see. James Wan nodded. He also knew some inside information about Million Dollar Baby, and after understanding the public relations rules of the Oscars, it was not surprising. Are you coming to the company today for the Saw project? The deputy director poured coffee and asked. James Wan hesitated for a moment before replying, no, after producing the 4th film, I don't want to participate in this project anymore. I came here today for other things. Maybe I will need to trouble you in a while, but I don't know if Mr. Lemon will agree. The deputy director knew that James Wan admired Lemon very much and would consult him on anything. And coming to the company so formally must not be a trivial matter. Maybe there is a new project. In fact, Firefly Pictures is not large in size, and the division of some powers is not comprehensive enough. For example, the review of projects and the investigation of market prospects are almost all handled by Lemon alone. If Lemon does not approve, the company's funds will not be invested in any project, which will be a big hidden danger for a production company. After all, a person's vision and energy are limited. Fortunately, Lemon has never missed it over the years. Speaking of it, how will the company develop, and in which direction will it develop? The company's senior management is a little unclear. Well, if it is a production problem of a new project, you can come and pick people at that time. We will definitely form the best behind the scenes team to reduce your production pressure. By the way, how is your studio now? It's not like that yet. James Wan obviously didn't want to talk about this. In fact, James Wan has made a lot of money in the past 2 years. For the Saw series of projects, the revenue of each film, including offline aspects, James Wan's studio has more than 20% of the share. Not to mention the box office income is also very considerable. His director's salary is calculated separately, roughly around 3 million. With this calculation, he can make about 50 million from the release of the 3 Saw movies. However, apart from a few odd jobs and financial accountants, his studio only has Ray Warnell as a general. In terms of scale, it is incomparable to the behind-the-scenes teams of several other directors. An empty shell. Forget it, I'll come later and bother you then. After saying this, James Wan walked into the corridor again. In the president's office. Are you saying that you have a new shooting plan? Lemon asked casually. Yes, Mr. Lemon. James Wan was quite respectful. After all, this is in the company, and the two of them can't be too casual. Did you bring the script? Lemon asked. Yes. James Wan took out a stack of manuscript paper from his briefcase, which actually came with a part of the scene storyboard, which seemed more intuitive, and also presented a general idea of the image style. Lemon took it, and James Wan explained, this idea came from a dream, a nightmare. And this dream was very real, and I could remember it after waking up. So I found Ray Warnell to have the main plotline, based on this dream, but the script has not been fully conceived yet. So, you want to direct this new work? Lemon rolled his eyes. Well, someone else can be responsible for the Saw project. I want to take over this one. I also want to ask the company for help with the production. I will only be a nominal figure. James Wan smiled embarrassedly. If possible, the investment rights can also be consistent with the Saw project. Firefly Pictures' attitude towards its partners is still very good, and the division of profits is not excessive. While the company eats meat, others can also have a sip of soup, and they don't have to bear too much production risk. If there is really a loss, it will definitely be the company that loses the most. It can be said that benefits and risks coexist. Okay, Lemon responded, but his eyes were always on the script and scene shots. As he watched, Lemon had a headache. Sure enough, James Wan still couldn't escape this hurdle. He even advanced the original time and space by more than half a year, because he controlled the economic power too early. Is it about a story of a ghost taking lives? James Wan replied happily, yes, I have always wanted to make such a horror movie. When it comes to horror, the unknown is the easiest to scare people. Ghosts are the best carrier of this kind of subject matter. I think it will be absolutely shocking with the dark atmosphere and scene rendering. To be honest, some of the scenes in it are scary to me. For example, when I woke up in the middle of the night, I always felt that something was hiding in the corner watching me. I looked at it and found that it was a doll. In such darkness, the doll's eyes seem to blink and come alive. Even though you know that the doll can't come back to life, it still gave me a bad feeling. According to what James Wan said, coupled with the scene storyboard in his hand, Lyman seemed to be able to imagine such a time. Damn, it made me feel creepy. James Wan is really a psychopath. It's a good idea, Lyman affirmed his new film concept, and then said, but how much money do you plan to spend on this film? Oh, I forgot to ask, what is the name of the film? James Wan only had some ideas, but it would take time to implement them. He thought carefully for a long time before saying, the name of the film is Dead Silence. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 459, Losing Mind. Subscriptions. Vote. The original version of Dead Silence was a film released by Universal. It was also the first distributor that James Wan found after he broke up with Lionsgate peacefully. However, this work with an investment of more than 20 million yuan had a box office of less than 17 million in North America, and the global total just recovered the production costs. According to the proportion of publicity and distribution in theaters, if the producer wants to make a profit at the box office, it basically needs to reach 3 to 1, that is, 60 million box office to 20 million production costs, in order to basically make up for the loss at the box office. But unfortunately, the setting of Dead Silence is still novel, but the story is too old-fashioned, and Universal almost cursed at the loss. I guess they are also wondering, how could a genius director who can create box office miracles fail? In fact, this is also a rare box office failure in James Wan's directorial career. From the perspective of later generations, it is normal for Dead Silence to lose money. In terms of the use of horror element, the development of puppet toys with country nursery rhymes is simply the best setting effect. Similar to the American classic film Child's Play, each film has a high horror index and considerable box office performance. Dead Silence is naturally not bad in terms of scaring people. Billy, the puppet often shown in slow motion in the film, is the most outstanding prop in the whole film. The primitive fear of humans ingrained in their genes is to fear those things that are too similar to themselves but unknown. Billy is such a realistic doll. Naturally, it is also full of mystery. The plastic face always has a stiff smile, and the pupils that stare at people are themselves synonymous with weirdness. In this work, it cannot be said that the decline of James Wan's directing skills led to the box office failure. This guy's bold attempt at horror element in this film is already at a very high level. Compared with the later popular Insidious series, The Conjuring series, and Dead Silence, the horror expression techniques are more deeply rooted in the bone marrow. The atmosphere of the scene and the sudden audio-visual experience bring the audience into a hellish heartbeat realm. However, there are too many flaws in the story of this work, which greatly weakens a horror atmosphere that has been established with great difficulty. As a result, Mary Shaw's grand appearance and the climax of the ghost's death have become too cliched, and the ending is extremely abrupt, laying the same commercial foreshadowing of this type of film. For example, the identity setting of the villain Mary Shaw is too poor. As a ventriloquist, she actually caused a very deliberate killing tragedy because of the words of a child watching the play, "I saw your lips moving," which is simply a big failure. Also, what kind of perfect doll did this guy make with a child? After being discovered, the townspeople killed her, and she began to resent all the townspeople. Will she take revenge on the townspeople and their descendants? What is she doing? How to make this story complete? Mary Shaw, the old woman, kills children for fun. But if someone kills you, you can become a ghost to avenge yourself. Why can't those children who died tragically do the same? In terms of hatred, it is obvious that there are more children. So after so much preparation in the beginning, when it comes to Mary Shaw, the plot is so stupid and hypocritical that it insults the IQ and the audience's worldview, and it is not something that can be saved by any setting. To be honest, the setting of Billy the doll is so good that in vain. In order to match it, the lighting effects of light and dark plus the cleverly constructed scene atmosphere, the psychological effect strongly implied by the details of the lens, the tension of pinching the heart, are all torn apart. This is also the reason why the horror index of the movie is quite high, and several shots have become classics for later generations, but the market performance is so poor. So, no matter what the subject matter is, a qualified story that can justify itself and does not make the audience feel insulted is the foundation of film art. And the original version of Dead Silence just lost its mind in the story. Lyman put down the script and asked James Wan, "Have you figured out the main storyline?" James Wan nodded and expressed his thoughts. The setting that Lay-Wanel and I set is that the residents of a small town are haunted by ghosts and die one by one. The folk song says not to scream, which is also the inspiration for the ghost to kill people. So, there are limitations to ghosts killing people. The limitation you set is not to scream. Yes, a bad guy died and became an evil ghost, but the evil ghost cannot kill people at will, which increases the conflict of the plot and the fun of watching. Lyman suddenly realized that it was no wonder that in James Wan's setting, the ghost Mary Shaw was so stupid. It turned out that she was a bad person. Since she is a bad person, do we have to show how bad she is? Unfortunately, James Wan's antisocial conception caused a lot of dissatisfaction among the audience, which was far from the public's psychological expectations. The theory that justice will not be absent and good people will be rewarded was directly torn up. It seems that it is right to accept incompetence. At that moment, Lyman looked at James Wan with a worried look on his face. "If you ask me, this work will most likely not be accepted by the market." James Wan was a little stunned. He never expected that Lyman would reject his new work proposal. Lyman continued, "To put it another way, if you were in the audience's shoes, how many people do you think would like the movie after it is made? Where is the market audience?" James Wan hesitated and said, "Horror themes are naturally supported by fans who like to watch horror movies. Judging from past market data, there are definitely many audiences in this area. I estimate that the production budget is about 25 million. It should be able to sell 70 to 80 million in North America, and it will be a little less overseas, but it should be able to sell 50 million. This will be more than 100 million, not counting the discs and TV broadcasts. It is not difficult to make back the investment. You still have a plan." Lyman still recognized his data basis. After all, horror movies, calculated on the average, as long as the quality is good, will have a market box office of at least $50 million US. However, the new work still needs to think deeply about the structure of the plot. With the lessons learned from previous failures in the cultivation of market vision over the years, Lyman still suggested it's okay to shoot, and the concept is absolutely correct. But don't the characters need to be better polished? Hearing that there is still a chance to shoot, James Wan doesn't mind changing the script outline. He is not a very self-reliant director. Looking at his later work in typical commercial films such as Fast and Furious, we can see that he doesn't care much about the script. He cares more about how to use his own lens language and rhythm control ability to create a movie with his own style. After all, many well-known directors are not very good at writing scripts. Lyman himself has problems in this regard. Chapter 460 New version of Dead Silence. Please subscribe and vote. After the script was rejected again, when James Wan heard that the project still had room for recovery, he immediately perked up and waited for Lyman to tell him how to write the story. In horror films, there are many ways to create the source of horror, but the most popular ones are nothing more than concrete and intentional. The former's representative works include The Island, the Japanese version of The Ring, and the Japanese version of The Grudge, and the latter's representative works include Phantom, Suspiria, and even The Blair Witch Project. And your film is conceived in a concrete way, and there will be frontal shots of ghosts. Therefore, the role of the ghost itself seems to be more important. In this case, it is more in line with the audience's psychological point of view that it was wronged in its previous life, died with hatred, and turned into a ghost for revenge. Is my setting not okay? Neither the Western God nor the Eastern immortal saints would advocate this argument. By the way, do you believe in fatalism? No. After hesitating for a while, James Wan answered honestly. Lyman shook his head slightly. but this is a certain social attribute. For example, little girls should like dolls and beautiful clothes, and boys will like toy guns, toy racing cars and other violent and playful toys. This is an imposed and seriously biased characteristic given by society. If you were asked to buy toys for a friend's daughter, what would you buy? I don't know. Maybe a Barbie doll. You see, this is a long-term, socially subjective choice. Does anyone say that girls can't like toy guns? No. But more people hope that they like dolls. Now, you should understand. From the standpoint of the public, not absolutely, but cultural and entertainment creation should not be too unorthodox, especially when our directors still need box office results to support their personal careers. In fact, the character of Mary Shaw is like a bitch lotus, and she is the kind of bitch that disgusts the public. Her severity is comparable to the NTR in online articles. Then how should we change it? The identity setting of the ventriloquist is very good, and it is also easy to match with the country nursery rhymes without screaming, but she can be made to be a better person, a little more neurotic, and it would be best if she was misunderstood by the residents of the town for some reason, which led to her death. The evil ghosts formed by too much resentment will haunt these murderers until the next generation will seek revenge. Some reason? Misunderstood as a pedophile? Lyman encouraged. It's a good entry point. A ventriloquist who often deals with puppets. She has never married or started a family, but she likes children abnormally. In this case, a boy is better. After Von Ziron's thoughts were opened, his ideas gradually became clear. Mary Shaw lives in a small town and makes a living by performing ventriloquism in the theater. Because she likes children, she often invites children to her house to play. But one day, a boy came home from Mary Shaw and suddenly told his parents that someone hurt him. Rumors spread in the town, and everyone began to doubt Mary Shaw's motives for inviting children to her home to play. The matter became more and more serious in the neighbors' gossip, so that everyone looked at Mary Shaw, an outsider, with tinted glasses. Until one day, a drunk parent could no longer control himself, picked up a shotgun, and killed Mary Shaw. A week later, the man was found drowning in the bathtub, and his wife and children jumped down from the upstairs and fell into pieces. The town began to be deserted, and some people left here one after another, but Mary Shaw's resentment did not disappear. Instead, it fulfilled the nursery rhyme, "Don't scream when you see a doll." This setting may be better. James Wan was very satisfied. After Mary Shaw's character was reportrayed, the sense of fear was inexplicably aggravated, and the first half of the story was polished. It feels like a kind of inexplicable plot development of the old corpse in the mountain village in The Deer Hunter. Zizi, Churin Mei, what a childhood shadow. With this arrangement, Mary Shaw is expected to become the American version of Churin Mei, the kind of existence that leaves all viewers with a deep impression after watching it, the kind that they will dream about at night. After all, in the United States, the problem of children is far more immersive than cheating, and NTR, and the public is more willing to accept the reason that the misunderstood person has great resentment after death. You know, Michael Jackson, with such an international status, was still defeated by a seemingly pedophile. This also once again confirms a truth that has never changed since ancient times. It takes only one mouth to spread rumors, but it takes a lot of effort to refute them. And it often doesn't work anyway. Well, I don't know how many social issues are involved in such a plot, which is very topical and conflicts with the drama. I believe that the movie will at least not be complained by American audiences like in the previous life. James Wan obviously understands that the script has risen to a higher level, and his face is a little excited. This is not a matter of changing the death of the villain, but clearly elevating the intention of the script. As a director, he still has a perspective on the problem. Ha, wonderful, ha, interesting. The more Von Ziron thought about it, the more he wanted to shoot. He muttered to himself, and almost forgot that there was a person standing next to him. Seeing him like that, Lemon patted him on the shoulder, and wanted to say something. In the end, he told him, remember the social characteristics I just mentioned. Write another script. When you're done, I'll invest in the project. Oh, okay. I'll go back and write the script with Ray Wannell. This promise was the best comfort, and it instantly turned around Von Ziron's somewhat lost mood. He hurriedly nodded to Lemon, took the script, and turned to leave the office. Lyman once created his own The Conjuring movie universe with his extraordinary talent for horror. His directing ability is beyond doubt, but at the same time, geniuses also need to grow. For example, the original Dead Silence, which was shot without considering the market prospects, has doomed the film to failure. It is also because this guy focused all his energy on how to use the lens to create a horror atmosphere and ignored the integrity of the film's plot and the control of the rhythm. He is like a truck driver who is very good at simplicity. The cargo load always takes precedence over driving comfort. But once you get used to it, some small problems are inevitable. Of course, there is another situation that may have something to do with the fact that he encountered many setbacks when he first entered the director circle. James Wan likes to control the cost of filming. Even if he has money, he prefers to shoot low-budget movies. The degree of care for funds always focuses on cost effectiveness, which is quite different from Nolan's attitude towards film works. He is good at calculations, but it does not mean that he is not generous. In fact, because of the style of shooting the best real shots, it is difficult to reduce the cost of shooting. I moved recently, so there won't be too many updates. I hope to give you some time to adjust. Thank you all book friends. Thank you. Chapter 461 Digital Domain, Subscriptions, Vote. Hi, we meet again. The coffee man greeted happily when he came to the digital field in the residential area again. He took Lemon to a meeting room and then introduced, "We have achieved results for the several creative concepts you asked for. Take a look first." The meeting room was not big. There were not many people. After Lemon sat down, he did not see the familiar figure. He actually wanted to meet Cameron on this occasion. Although he had written about his black history before and often complained about him. But for this top director who has no rivals in the box office, Lemon admires him more than Spielberg and George Lucas, who have also achieved excellent results. After all, just two Titanic and Avatar are enough to make him famous in the history of movies, and they are the kind of things that are difficult to shoot, even if you know how to shoot. Although Cameron's shooting techniques are not very advanced, and he doesn't like to play fancy things, and the structure of the plot is not very novel, but just relying on the new technologies that he has figured out and can use, people can't replicate his success. "Can I meet your boss?" Lemon asked the coffee man on the left. "Well," the coffee man explained, "our boss is not in Los Angeles. He is working on a documentary." Well, it seems that Cameron has begun to think about new film shooting technology to prepare for his science fiction masterpiece Avatar. Not surprisingly, the producer of this documentary is also 20th Century Fox. Lemon thought so and quickly interrupted the coffee man's long speech to introduce digital technology. "I don't understand these. I just want to see the effect. So let's skip the politeness and get straight to the point. Dealing with non-professional customers is like this, and the coffee man is obviously not a qualified product manager. At least, his words are not refined and simplified enough, and Lemon found it difficult to understand what he was talking about. Fortunately, the moment of embarrassment soon passed. The coffee man turned the laptop on the table and placed it in front of Lemon. "This is the concept map you requested. If you are satisfied, we will make a similar style according to the script scene. There are several completed special effects scenes in the computer, and you can tell at a glance that they are movie concepts such as black fog, monsters, and landslides. Not bad." Lemon nodded approvingly. "Then, we will produce it according to this idea. However, when will your film start shooting? Have you figured out the process? By then, we will need to go to the shooting site to collect data and coordinate in advance. It will probably start production in February, and we will notify you in advance." After Lemon said this, he settled the advance payment and paid the first payment for the special effects work, spending a total of $2.35 million before leaving Digital Domain. After the preparations for the film production were advanced a little, Lemon was in a good mood on the way back. He was still thinking that perhaps Firefly Pictures should also have a special effects studio. From what he knew about the future trend, it was not difficult to find that the proportion of computer special effects in the film industry would become higher and higher. But how to cultivate a good special effects studio, Lemon had no idea. He himself did not understand this. When he returned to Firefly Pictures and entered the production department, Lemon saw Blake in a hurry. "What's wrong? What's the matter?" "Just right. I was just looking for you. I have sorted out the production schedule, budget report and shooting arrangement of the film." Lemon nodded and followed Blake to the small conference room in the compartment. At this moment, the writing board occupying one wall was densely covered with Lemon's hand-drawn storyboards of the mist. Similar coherent scenes were also classified. On the right side, the schedule and budget chart were made together. It must be said that Blake's ability to manage production is very good. It seems scattered, but in fact it is all sorted out according to the shooting order. Blake stuffed several folders on the conference table into the drawer and continued. "Under Thomas's supervision, the crew's preparations have been sorted out, and the personnel arrangements and the behind-the-scenes team have also been sorted out. The rest is just waiting for the scenery, props, and actors to be ready, and the shooting of the mist can begin. You've worked hard." Lemon comforted. "This is my job." Blake smiled. Then, the two discussed some details before the other turned around to do other things. After Blake left, Garsha quickly came up and said, "Boss, the first episode of The Walking Dead has been filmed." "Really? Let Gyro cut out the feature film, make a few copies, and send them to the 5 major commercial TV stations. Don't forget HBO, Showtime and other pay TV channels. Cast a wide net and let them bid." Garsha looked puzzled. "If that's the case, why not adopt a blind bidding model for the film purchase?" Blind bidding means that these TV stations give a psychological price for each episode to buy out the broadcast rights, based on the market prospects of a certain series, without open bidding. Doing so is more conducive to the producers, to obtain their own profits, and not hurt their face. Unfortunately, Lemon never wanted to get a little more purchase funds. What he wanted to do was to dig deep into the reputation of The Walking Dead and consider the larger zombie market in the future. The 5 major commercial TV networks have clearly stipulated shooting restrictions. For example, the lines cannot be pornographic and the shots cannot be too bloody. It is almost similar to the NC-17 movie rating. The charm of The Walking Dead cannot reduce the shooting level because of this. Furthermore, without blood and pornography, The Walking Dead would not be called a zombie TV series. Therefore, Lemon's goal has always been to focus on limited pay channels. Among them, HBO is the strongest and has the largest number of paying users. Garsha, your idea is good, but there are some other concerns about the choice of broadcast platform for The Walking Dead. So, just do it according to my requirements. Garsha grinned and wanted to say something, but seeing Lemon's unquestionable attitude, he finally did not persevere in asking. As a subordinate, he still has some insight. Although he was very puzzled by Lemon's choice. Of course, he has already given his own plan, and whether to adopt it is up to the boss. No matter what, he has fulfilled his responsibility. "Okay, let's do it this way." Lemon patted Garsha on the shoulder. After watching him leave, Lemon turned around and went back to his office. Speaking of which, the Oscar Public Relations for $1 Million Baby also needs his cooperation. Very busy. Chapter 462 HBO. Subscriptions. Votes required. What? The invitation for the project of The Walking Dead was sent to us by Firefly Pictures? In Fox TV, the production director listened to his subordinate's report. Do they cooperate with us? The director asked in confusion. But they even sent the pilot content of the first episode. Could it be that the cooperation between Firefly Pictures and WBTV has been severed? The director thought carefully. Lemon has cooperated with Warner Media for more than 1 or 2 projects, and the benefits are so great that it is definitely a partner that we strive for. But now, the invitation has been sent to Fox. What does it mean? But in any case, The Walking Dead is undoubtedly a good project. You should arrange for someone to write a cooperation agreement first. The purchase cost, broadcast plan, market prospects, publicity analysis and a fine supply should be as concise as possible to facilitate negotiations. Okay. 2 days later, the negotiation team of Fox TV officially met with Firefly Pictures for a talk. However, the scene was a bit awkward. They thought that they were the only one coming, but several domestic TV networks sent people. A group of people sat in the conference room in a clear division, thinking about various things. The atmosphere became subtle. Is this a sale at a high price? Thinking of this possibility, the person in charge of Fox was relieved. At least, Firefly Pictures really wanted to seek cooperation for the new drama. Next, the competition was nothing more than which company had better conditions. After waiting for a while, the people from Firefly also arrived, but Lemon himself did not come. All the negotiations were handled by Garsha. Negotiations must have contact. The people present were not surprised. After some politeness, each company began to promise conditions, such as guaranteeing primetime broadcasts, purchasing broadcast rights for $5 million per episode, and advertising split 70% to 30%. Oh, 70% for TV stations. In short, everyone seemed very sincere. After all, it was very likely a win-win cooperation, and everyone was willing to take it. It was a pity that Garsha was a stubborn person. No matter how the TV stations hinted at the benefits, he never responded positively and just laughed it off. However, he still felt very sorry in his heart because Lemon had instructed him to look at the conditions of each company, but he could not agree. Therefore, he was just a tool pushed to the front by the boss to ease the relationship, and he had no real power. After a war of words, everyone with their own thoughts dispersed. After Garsha reported on his work, Lemon said, "You will have to work harder later and then contact HBO's negotiation team." After each company showed a little bit of its cards, it is believed that if HBO really wants to cooperate, it should show more sincerity, which will also make it easier for Lemon to take the initiative. Well, I know. Not long after, two black Cadillacs stopped in the underground parking lot of the Firefly building again. Several middle-aged men in formal suits got off the cars one after another. Led by the company's front desk, they walked into the meeting room of Firefly Pictures again. After meeting them, Garsha shook hands and greeted each other. In HBO's somewhat speculative mind, they really talked about the cooperation of The Walking Dead again. In addition, Garsha also asked someone to take out the second episode that had not been edited yet from the film library and screen it. In the original time and space, The Walking Dead would be broadcast on AMC cable TV. Once it was released, word of mouth quickly fermented and caused a viewing frenzy. However, AMC TV is not an important cable pay channel now. It would be better for The Walking Dead to choose Fox. At least, Fox TV ranked among the top 3 in the entire TV series market last year. Due to the butterfly effect brought by Lemon, several actors in the show have been replaced, and the key tool role played by Eva has been added. The plot is different from the original version, and is closer to the worldview of New York. The cause of the zombie virus outbreak is also the experimental gas leak of the chemical plant, which began to radiate across the country from New York. The area where the protagonist group is located is Chicago, and the journey begins from there. It can be said that the changes in the main line of the story are still quite large in the early stage, but the specific filming is absolutely excellent because of the sufficient budget and the strength of the director Gyro. The quality of the film will begin to decline seriously after the 6th season, and the risk of a bad ending will definitely not happen. After all, Lemon pays great attention to the integrity and logical consistency of the story and the creation of the script. As for the male lead of this film, it is Andrew Lincoln who plays the role and has signed a long-term contract for the series. He can accept being exploited, and you can tell from his resume. He was born in the UK and made his debut in 1994. His first role was just a minor role in a TV series. Later, he gradually received several film works. The most famous one was the role of Mark in the British love work Love Actually in 2003, which was nominated for the Best Newcomer at the British Empire Awards and thus entered Hollywood. For an actor, this experience is not even a small red, but a relatively ordinary person in the circle. The only advantage he has over local actors is that he has some connections in the UK, and if he can't make it in Hollywood, he will not have no chance at all. He was able to get the role of the male lead in the project of Firefly Pictures. In addition to his good image, he also has acting experience, and the most important thing is that he is willing to sign a relatively demanding long-term contract for participation. It stipulates that if the development of the project is interrupted or delayed due to his personal problems, all losses must be borne by him. Moreover, the room for salary increase is also well limited by the long-term contract. The dominant power is absolutely in the hands of the production party. Of course, for Andrew Lincoln at this time, it was a million times his will. He had never been famous. If he became famous through The Walking Dead, even if the salary could not be normal, the income from announcements, advertising endorsements and even performances was not controlled by Firefly Pictures. Moreover, 20,000 yuan per episode, and the price of at least 80,000 yuan per episode in the second part, were also the highest salary he had ever received. What was there to say no to? Only with opportunities can there be a future of advancement. HBO's negotiation team focused on the shooting content of the second episode. Although there was a lack of music in some places and some flaws in the dialogue processing, it was also possible to see the plot direction and rhythm control after the first episode. After the episode was broadcast, HBO's people were more eager to buy the broadcast rights. They talked to Garsha for a few words, and Lemon also joined the negotiation at the right time. After inviting everyone to take a seat, Lemon stood at the top with his hands behind his back and smiled and said, "I wonder if you are satisfied with the shooting content of the TV series?" The person in charge of HBO was also a fool. He did not answer questions directly to avoid being led by the nose during the negotiation. Instead, I talked about some trivial things while watching the show and asked about some foreshadowings in the plot. In short, it was quite difficult to deal with. No wonder HBO chose me to participate in the negotiation of cooperation terms for the project. Chapter 463 settled on HBO. Please subscribe and vote. The HBO representatives were quite eloquent and talked for a long time. Lemon felt that they had learned the essence of take I. For a moment, the meeting room suddenly became strangely quiet. After a while, Lemon really felt that the atmosphere was awkward, so he simply stopped talking in circles with them. The Walking Dead is still being filmed, and we need to find a platform to host the pilot. HBO is the ideal partner after our company's consideration. After all, our relationship with Warner is pretty good, right? We are also optimistic about this drama. Can you tell us what conditions you have? HBO has no advertisements, right? Lemon asked suddenly. Yes, we don't have any advertising business. But what makes us different from other wireless TV stations is that users' subscription fees can replace this part of the revenue. Moreover, we are always the most courageous in purchasing broadcasting rights, and I believe your company can also find out. Lemon felt like laughing after hearing this. Why is the courage to purchase dramas the greatest? Isn't it because the coverage area of cable TV networks is inherently inferior to that of wireless TV networks? If you don't pay a high price, who the hell will sell dramas to you? However, HBO's self-operated business is still very good. Although the total market share is not too much in terms of profit, they are still not bad. How is the subscription fee split calculated? The number of new people watching The Walking Dead and the number of old users renewing to watch the series. The former is 60% and the latter is 80%. Well, old users are generally accustomed to renewing and paying. Even if the new series The Walking Dead is replaced by other projects, the most change is the number of viewers. After all, HBO does not only operate this TV series, and there are many fans of other series. This is fair. Warner and I have a close and mutually beneficial relationship. Sometimes, deepening cooperation a little bit is better for both of us. The representative nodded, as if to express approval. Mr. Berrymere said that you value feelings, and he was right. Well, it seems that according to your new series project plan, the budget for the first season is about $30 million US. Lemon heard it and understood that this person wanted to start quoting for broadcast rights. As for the previous talk about friendship, just listen to it. It is probably just an excuse to facilitate the subsequent price reduction. However, this attitude is not a bad thing for Lemon. After all, the people at HBO are satisfied with the new drama project and want to fight for it. The shooting budget is probably enough. I haven't heard that the crew has delayed the progress. The man smiled and thought for a while before saying, the first season is 24 episodes, and the average production cost per episode is no more than $1.25 million US. How about this? We are willing to pay $3.2 million per episode. $3.5 million per episode? No, $3.3 million. $3.4 million. $3.35 million per episode, a total of $8,040. We are already very sincere. Well, for Barry Mears' sake, we agree to this price. After deducting the production costs and the share of the two directors and the main creative team from the $80 million, Firefly Pictures can earn more than $35 million, which is not a bad deal. Looking at the raised mouths of the HBO representative team, Lyman also knew that the bulk of the money was still eaten by the broadcasting platform. Even if the first season of The Walking Dead only had 70% of the market prospects of the previous life, the total project value was estimated to be more than $300 million. Of course, there was no deduction of operating costs, because that was HBO's sole responsibility. However, Lyman had nothing to envy. The channel has always been the upstream of the industry. Whether it is a movie or a TV series, it is the same. He is used to it. After all, if there is no channel to broadcast, no matter how good his series is, it can't be sold at a high price. Just like behind the prosperous film market every year, more than 80% of the works that failed to make money in the theaters are buried. Another example is the Blue Butterfly Pictures he acquired, which can live very well by relying on the squeeze of those small companies without distribution channels. Every year, countless production companies go bankrupt, but I haven't heard of any company with North American distribution channels going bankrupt. At most, the profit is not high, and it is sold as a chicken rib asset. This is the current situation of the Hollywood film and television industry. Lyman then said, "But I have one more condition." The representative frowned slightly, thinking that the cooperation would be repeated, and quickly replied, "What other conditions? It's not a big problem." Lyman smiled and said, "After HBO finishes broadcasting The Walking Dead, your company can be responsible for the rotation rights of the first season, but can we cooperate in the offline disc distribution market?" Yes, after the first round of broadcasting, the TV station can still sell it to local TV stations and even other regions such as the British market, to continue to make profits, but the second round of broadcasting rights are sold at a bargain price. In the third round, it is even cheaper, basically used to fill the broadcast time. The offline market is different. Because the United States attaches great importance to copyright, pirated copies are difficult to flow into the underground market. The American people are also accustomed to buying a set of DVDs for the movies and TV series they support. After all, it's only a dozen or $20. In their spare time, they can take it out and watch it again. Of course, the profits shared by both parties are still in accordance with industry rules. HBO has no objection to this matter. Anyway, it does not harm their interests. The representative thought about it and nodded and agreed. After the two parties officially signed the broadcast contract, HBO immediately started the publicity work for this matter. Well, let me add that HBO rarely cuts dramas. Generally, they will operate and broadcast after buying the copyright. According to HBO's plan, they will arrange for The Walking Dead to be broadcast in the prime time of 8 p.m. on Saturday night on January 15th. It is considered settled. After the cooperation between the two parties was reached, the industry naturally knew about it. For those wireless TV networks, it was just a failure in competition, which was nothing. But for WBTV, it was not such good news. Their TV business originally overlapped with HBO, and their program production capabilities were not comparable. There have always been shareholders on the board who wanted to promote WBTV, to separate its production business, merge and reorganize, so that the coverage of the business map would be clearer, and it would be easier to tilt resources. As for Lyman, the mess inside Warner and the power struggle naturally did not affect their company. He just chose a more win-win partner, based on the profit prospects of the project. But in Andrew's view, it was clearly a subconscious stand for this trend, and he naturally felt bad. But the Prison Break project is their TV station's trump card, and they have to support it wholeheartedly. How can they not be depressed? This is business. Chapter 464 $. Play, subscriptions, votes required. 2005. Hollywood, near the Avenue of Stars. It was still 9 o'clock in the morning, but there were many pedestrians on the street. Most of them were tourists who wanted to meet a star, or become famous overnight, after being spotted by a scout, or just to visit. In short, there was a lot of traffic. The nearby businesses were also gathered together, with countless big brands. And around the community, which was less than a 10-minute walk away, a black business Mercedes-Benz was quietly parked on the street. In the driver's seat, Lemon looked at Nicolas Cage in front of him with interest, wearing sunglasses, a headgear, and a beard. He was like a street painter, writing and drawing from time to time, and chatting with tourists. At this time, he was fully armed and wrapped tightly. Even the die-hard fans who were very familiar with his face could not recognize him for a while. He sat on a small stool and painted something on the canvas. Since Lemon talked to him about the role in the script, Nicolas Cage has been playing his role in the real life for more than half a month, trying to find the feeling. After a while, the passerby who was chatting with Cage turned and left, and Lemon got out of the car and walked over. "Hey, how is it? How are you adapting?" On the canvas was a half scene of the street, which looked quite decent. "I learned it specifically. Even if I don't act anymore, it's still a job," Cage joked. "Haha, get in the car, let's go to the company to talk about filming." Lemon helped him put away his things and stuffed them into the trunk of the car. After Cage got in the car, he took off his headgear and sunglasses and asked impatiently, "How was my performance just now? Did you have a similar feeling?" Lemon praised, "I'm definitely satisfied that you can experience the role and get into the role. It's good that you can find this temperament." Nicolas Cage is a typical method actor, which can be seen from his way of getting into the role. Afterwards, the crew of The Mist officially held the first script reading meeting. In the meeting room of Firefly Pictures, Lemon asked people to call several actors he selected. In addition to Cage, Eva, and Samuel Jackson, there are also Toby Jones, Nathan Gamble and other main supporting roles. Everyone also knows what this gathering means. After all, after the casting work was completed, Lemon only asked them to read the original novel of The Mist, but it was still unclear what the script would be adapted into, and whether the characters could be outstanding. Therefore, everyone was quite looking forward to it, even the male lead Cage. After all, the script adaptation and the original novel cannot be confused. It was at this moment that Lemon distributed everyone's scripts. A group of people chatted with each other, met, and increased their understanding. Lemon also took this opportunity to cultivate the tacit understanding between the actors when they were acting, and the incompatibility of the aura, and slightly improved some details of the script. Well, the latter can be roughly explained as a sense of CP, that is, the screen aura is more compatible, and it will not make the audience feel abrupt. After all, the male and female protagonists and the main supporting roles have changed candidates, and Cage and Thomas Jane's image style and performance methods are also different. Lemon could not shoot according to the image of Thomas Jane's painter David in his memory. The same is true for the rest of the actors. They must bring their own temperament into the role, polish it, and adjust it. After reading the script, a group of creative actors also tried to perform several scenes to figure out the degree to be grasped during the performance. For example, when Cage and Eva acted opposite each other, they had to act with restraint, otherwise they would completely suppress Eva with their momentum during the performance, resulting in a great sense of separation. For example, when Samuel, the gold medal supporting role, needed to act together, Cage needed to let go, otherwise the protagonist's momentum would not be obvious, and it would not be good for the supporting role to suppress the protagonist. Many fans feel embarrassed when watching movies, and are not into the play. A large part of the reason is that the actors do not cooperate well when acting against each other, and cannot grasp the degree. And because Cage is tall, Eva's role cannot wear high heels, and a pair of flat shoes with hidden padding must be specially made. After all, if there is a lack of coordination due to height, Eva will find it more difficult to show the charm of her role under Cage's sharp edge, which will give the audience a sense of passers-by, and inexplicably irrelevant to the plot. This is also a common problem in movies. There are many shots, but they just don't leave any impression. For example, someone sweet got a lot of resources from first-line blockbusters, but he just didn't stand out. This is definitely not a clear explanation for the popularity of passers-by. After a discussion, Lemon also had a rough idea of the shooting of several actors. After asking them to go through the group scene again, Lemon interrupted their actions, waved his hand to attract everyone's attention, and then he said, "There are still 2 weeks to prepare. I hope everyone will understand their roles thoroughly. At the very least, you must be familiar with the lines. I don't want the crew to delay the progress due to the actors' problems after the start of filming. I hope everyone can take this play seriously. Looking around, Lemon said it very seriously. Everyone can also feel that Lemon's attitude is not a joke. Although he didn't say what the consequences are, it seems that it is not as simple as the tone. You shouldn't play with your work. That is irresponsible to yourself. At this point, several actors nodded in agreement. After all, the request was not excessive. Since you got the role and the crew trusted you, isn't it the most basic thing to memorize the lines? It is also the most common thing for actors to figure out the role. If you want to eat this bowl of rice, you have to give it a gesture. When I really arrived at the shooting scene, I didn't even know what I was acting, let alone talk about image creation. A movie can never be made by just randomly pulling a few actors and designing a story. Lemon didn't care how they would treat the play. Anyway, if they failed to meet the requirements and delayed the shooting, they would not just be kicked out. All the loss obligations were marked in the contract and were responsible by the third-party regulatory agency. Then, Lemon instructed some trivial matters. For example, image design, dressing, for example, temperament issues, continue to experience life. After the party, Blake was busy soliciting sponsors for the crew, while Lemon was focusing on the location scouting, props and other work, and all the actors were also adjusting themselves. Time passed slowly in a busy atmosphere. On January 15th, under the premise of HBO's efforts to build momentum, The Walking Dead, which has received a lot of attention, is about to prove its value. The first trailer was released a long time ago, and the audience's response was very enthusiastic. Anyway, HBO's support for the new series is still very strong. Of course, no matter how much it is praised in the past, it still needs actual results to support it. And what will happen when The Walking Dead officially debuts? Chapter 465 The Walking Dead premieres. Please subscribe and vote. Chicago, the small town of Loneif. The two scenes in the morning were shot quickly. Director Tuoluo was organizing the filming equipment with his men. Producer Garsha came over with a water cup and said, the company called and said that The Walking Dead will be broadcast on the channel tonight. Tuoluo frowned. So soon? That's good. I can see the audience's feedback. His studio also has a share of the revenue of this drama, but it's not much, only 5%. But his salary for directing and filming is calculated separately, as is the salary for the team behind the scenes. If the results can meet expectations, no one will be dissatisfied. After all, as a director, he is not actually pedantic. It's just that his unique aesthetic makes many production companies unacceptable, thinking that there is not much marketability, and the risk of investment and return is not proportional. Garsha sat down next to Tuoluo and handed him the water cup. I suggest that the crew can take a half day off and postpone the afternoon scenes to tomorrow. Let everyone go back and watch the series, which will give them more motivation for the next filming. Well, let's shoot tomorrow. Anyway, we are still ahead of schedule. Tuoluo took a sip of water and nodded. After the crew had a quick lunch, Tuoluo announced the news to the crew. And which of the main creative staff of the crew is not looking forward to their own work? At 7:30 in the evening, British actor Andrew Lincoln, who does not have a fixed residence in the United States, is in a hotel and locks on the channel where the series is broadcast. He feels a little uneasy and a little nervous, but more of it is expectation. After all, this is his first TV series as the male lead, and the performance is really related to his future development in the circle. It is this mixed mood of multiple emotions that makes him sit on the sofa and keep his eyes on the TV, even if there is more than half an hour before the broadcast. Time passes by every second. Suddenly, a low background music came from the TV, and a few pictures flashed by, forming the opening of The Walking Dead. The music gradually faded, and at the beginning, there was the familiar chemical plant logo in the movie, similar to the 3 small pages of a fan, and then the camera panned all the way, vaguely showing many destroyed roads and urban ruins. The screen went dark. The linkage with the movie ended, and what followed was a brand new story. In the small town, Rick, played by Andrew Lincoln, who was wearing a police uniform, received a call from the police station asking him to rush to a certain street to execute the order to cooperate with the search. Unexpectedly, the arrested black guy not only sold drugs, but also carried a gun with him. In the rush of the incident, Rick was shot in the left arm and lost consciousness during the exchange of fire. He was then sent to the community hospital in the small town. After falling into a coma, he woke up again, but felt that the world suddenly became strange. All he saw was a scene of devastation, randomly parked cars, various items scattered on the ground, messy streets, and no familiar town residents, as if they had been robbed or fled. He said that, when he woke up, there was not even a medical staff in the community clinic, so of course he felt something was wrong. As he walked, something even more wrong came. On a lifeless street, Rick suddenly heard some kind of biting sound. He turned his head and then lay on the ground to look under a car. He saw the feet of a little girl. She was walking and picked up a teddy bear doll. He quickly stood up and shouted, "Little girl." But the little girl seemed not to hear Rick and ignored him. He had to walk quickly towards the little girl and shouted, "I'm a policeman. Little girl." Only then did the little girl, who had her back to Rick, stop. "Don't be afraid, I'm a policeman," Rick repeated. The little girl finally turned around. She was mumbling something. Her eyes were dull, but slowly, her expression suddenly became ferocious, her teeth bared, and she was extremely fierce. This sudden change made Rick subconsciously take out his pistol. Rick's feeling was right. The little girl rushed towards this side with an extremely uncoordinated posture, like a beast. Rick was very scared and pointed his pistol at the little girl. Bang! The gunshot sounded, and the threat was lifted. I saw that there was a hole in the little girl's forehead in the bloodstains on the road. The benefits of choosing HBO to broadcast it were perfectly reflected. This scene has a different kind of beauty of venting violence, and a large number of close-ups quickly put the audience into this zombie world where order collapsed. Then, the scene changed. Jumped to two policemen chatting in the police car. One of them was Rick, who had just killed the little girl who had been infected with the zombie virus. He asked his partner, "What is the difference between men and women?" The other one next to him was seen, a small town policeman played by Joe Bossern. He looked like he was kidding me. But Rick said, "Honestly, what's the difference?" He asked seriously. Scene thought for a while before answering. "I've never seen a woman who knows how to turn on a light. They are born to turn on the light and never turn it off." This so-called answer of turning on and off the light is a more American metaphor, similar to Scene's belief that women only create problems but don't know how to solve them. In general, men rarely talk about women. They either complain, praise, admire, or are always licking dogs. But obviously, the character Scene created through this sentence is biased against women. He doesn't care about exposing this prejudice. The setting of this character is a typical American man who is playful, has countless girlfriends, does not have much sense of responsibility for the family, and has discrimination engraved in his bones since childhood. And Scene's role is also to set off the image of the protagonist Rick. The two continued to chat about the topic, and suddenly a voice came from the radio. All idle units, resisting arrest occurred on 2nd Avenue southeast of Lincoln County. A gang crime, please reinforce the scene immediately. Attention, GTA AD records, 217, 234 West, need to be highly alert. It seems to have returned to the beginning, but the difference is that it introduces a reason why Rick will participate in the operation alone. Because it was a gang crime, the police force was greatly dispersed, and just as they set out to support, the camera turned, and two crows were gnawing on the body of a stray dog. This shot is the same as the mutant deer at the beginning of Travel to New York. The second half is a flashback to the first half, and it is also an advance hint of the subsequent encounter, indicating that something bad has begun to break out. Fans who have seen Travel to New York are excited. This ubiquitous and identical technique will make people feel inexplicably familiar. But the bad thing is, the first episode is over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466 Feedback, subscribe, vote. Hype is very common in Hollywood. The Star Wars series, DC adaptations, and the future Marvel method are all examples of great success. The Walking Dead, which is called a spin-off of the New York trip, has been highly anticipated since the beginning of filming. On the night of the premiere, many viewers and fans waited in front of the TV early, and families who did not open a pay channel even opened and subscribed specifically to watch the series. Moreover, the results of these efforts did not disappoint people. Perhaps it was the added influence of the subsequent New York trip, or the montage flashback, and interspersed shooting techniques of the spinning top, or the careful and coherent plot conception of the screenwriter team. After watching the feature film, many viewers were attracted by the excellent quality. They applauded and criticized. They praised it for being well made, they criticized it for being too short, with only 45 minutes per episode, including the opening and ending credits. It was only about an hour. They kept complaining after watching the show, but they didn't change the channel. They continued to watch the subsequent programs arranged by HBO. After the first episode was broadcast, the audience also had heated discussions about several characters. Because of the character settings, the discussion became more and more intense. Yahoo community. As the largest and most trafficked representative of portal websites, there are still many active people on weekdays. However, at night, the activity is generally less than that during the day. But today is an exception. After 9 o'clock in the evening, the traffic of Yahoo suddenly increased. In addition to various topics, discussions and new posts, the hottest topics at the moment are TV series produced by major TV networks or movies broadcast in theaters. Among them, the most discussed is HBO's new drama The Walking Dead. Among them, the controversy over the characters is the hottest topic. The source of the controversy is not the quality of the first episode, or the plot, the shaping of the worldview, etc., but the opinions expressed by Rick, and seen in a casual chat about women. Just like the collision between the growing feminism and the most common sexism in the United States. Oh, there is also so-called racial discrimination in the middle, because the role of the drug dealer Elaine was played by a black actor. Of course, those who spoke up subconsciously ignored the faces of several white people in the drug gang. The debate became bigger and bigger, and the discussion became more and more intense. It attracted countless people to participate. Everyone interacted in a friendly and cordial manner on issues such as lines and director preferences. For a time, it was full of words starting with F, which is really the most wonderful compliment in the world. Female audiences, male chauvinistic white people, black audiences and other minorities, and spectators who like to watch the excitement, and the pushers behind the Warner Group in the middle, tried to make the name of the TV series known to everyone. After all, controversy is also a direct reflection of topic and traffic, and it is easier to attract attention than any scandal. It is difficult to say how much Warner's publicity resources are tilted here, but one thing that insiders know is that The Walking Dead is popular and successful, and Firefly Pictures, the platform party, and other investors have all become beneficiaries of the benefits. In the topic, some people belittled scene's way of looking at women, while others supported it. Some said that the cast was full of whiteness, while others supported it. In short, it was magical. But the world of the internet, without the need for real people to confront each other, is a magical place. Everyone can abandon the masks they have worn in front of others, and face their own hearts. In the conference room of the HBO office building, the long seats were full of leaders on both sides. Some were from the TV station, and some were executives of the Warner Group. Anyway, Warner has many factions, and shareholders and management are closely connected. After all, the business world is also a world of rivers and lakes. Not to mention that the distribution of interests of the Warner Group involves too much capital. On January 16th, around 10 o'clock in the morning, the day after the premiere of The Walking Dead, the current executive of HBO appeared in the conference room on time. He first explained some things to his assistant, then pulled a few executives from the Warner headquarters to say a few words, and then sat in the main seat and waved to signal the start of the meeting. The purchasing department has reached a good deal. The audience evaluation of The Walking Dead is good and the prospects are promising. The heads of each department will report the details. As soon as the voice fell, a middle-aged white man in the purchasing department stood up and said, "In the broadcast agreement we reached with Firefly Pictures, we spent more than $80 million to purchase the copyright, which was paid in 3 installments. The first installment of $30 million has been received. If the subsequent screening results are excellent, and they request renewal, we will have the absolute priority to purchase." The latter almost ensures that HBO will not invest a lot of resources to make wedding clothes for others, unless they do not want to renew the Walking Dead project. And all these investments will become the most bargaining chips in subsequent negotiations. However, the excitement of other departments is not so good for HBO's own self-made projects. In order to expand profits, not only did it give the prime time to The Walking Dead, but the focus of publicity resources was also completely on The Walking Dead. How much support can be given to self-made projects? If the influence is insufficient, the audience will naturally be small. Unfortunately, capital is profit-seeking. If you don't make the visible pie bigger, will you consider other things? Then there was another report on the ratings and subscribers. In the competition of the same time last night, The Walking Dead project we launched successfully won the first place, and the ratings broke 6 points. In the conference room, everyone was even happier. Breaking 6 is not very high with an HBO. But for a TV series that has only aired 1 episode and the charm of the series has not yet fermented, the ratings can break 6, which means that the future height will go up. It is definitely a high quality drama. Of course, the expressions of several directors of the self-produced dramas are even more unnatural. Even if they are family, they are absolutely in competition with each other. There are only so many viewers. If your ratings are high, won't others' ratings be low? Even if the popularity of The Walking Dead brings continued influence and seems to be an upward trend, what will happen if this person fantasizes about giving our drama so many resources? It is not the lack of resources that is worrying, but the inequality. This is the truth of human nature. But for the top management, there is nothing to worry about. The report continues. 5.42 million new paying users, 22.12 million old users renewed their subscriptions, accounting for 92% of the original total user base. If the previous ratings were good news, then this data is the foundation of HBO. After all, HBO does not accept business from advertisers and relies entirely on the support of paying users. Chapter 467 Good News. Subscribe, vote. Today, under the tide of algorithms and information flow, one truth is clear. Subscription for quality products. If you are more careful, you will find that the development of human civilization always revolves around 2 most primitive desires, reproduction and killing. Perhaps in a more detailed way, it is sex and violence. Since the day when the content creation of the film and television industry was developed, it has been inseparable from these 2 most important subject elements. God had once said, "Give me a girl and a gun, and I can make a movie." Although it is a bit exaggerated, there is no doubt that sex and violence hide countless story inspirations and are inexhaustible materials. And HBO may be the platform that understands this the most. From The Sopranos, The Wire, Band of Brothers, HBO interprets their brand advertising with one fine American drama after another. This is not an adult film, but HBO. Since its launch in 1972, they have won nearly 25 million subscribers with the charm of countless dramas, accounting for 80% of the US pay TV channel market. This means that at least 8 out of every 10 TV pay subscribers have watched HBO. A rough calculation shows that HBO can earn more than $2 billion a year from subscriptions alone. Users have to spend an extra $10 to $15 on top of the basic package fee of several dozen dollars a month to watch HBO's exclusive series. This means that without relying on advertisers, HBO can continue to operate prosperously as long as they fully meet the viewing needs of subscribers. When the data of nearly 27 million users watching The Walking Dead was released, the conference room suddenly became quiet. The executive of HBO's production department sighed dumbly, as if something was stuck in his throat. Compared to laymen who are completely watching these data, everyone present can more intuitively understand the significance of such results. After all, The Wire series was HBO's ace series last year, and it will continue to be produced in the fall of this year, and there are less than 20 million users chasing the series. But The Walking Dead, this is only the first episode, and it has exceeded the results created by the resource inclination of The Wire in the past 2 years. For a moment, he seemed to see the shadow of Band of Brothers, which had brought HBO to a new level. In terms of shooting costs, The Walking Dead doesn't have so many war scenes, saving a lot of money, and the profit may be even greater. Of course, now it is not measured by profit. What HBO needs is brand influence, similar to the golden signboard of Disneyland in real estate. Can you tell me more? Make the statistics clearer. Someone suddenly raised his head and asked with wide eyes. Some of the appearances were out of control, but they were also the inner reflections of some executives. Only the CEO at the top frowned in peace. The man continued to report. The average ratings of the first episode were 6.1, and the highest data reached 6.4, and the signs of decline were very stable. Well, this also means that the audience is not satisfying their curiosity because of the publicity, but is really satisfied with the content of the series. Otherwise the fluctuation of the ratings would be too stable. Could it be that the statistics are wrong? Another executive questioned. No, the data collected by the company has been compared with Nielsen, and there is no problem. Nielsen is the most authoritative organization in the field of data statistics and surveys, and they are often the first to obtain real-time data on movie box office. If there is no calculation error, I think we should have a good talk with Lyman. This is too crazy. Of course, and we need to do it as soon as possible. If the success of Prison Break can be attributed to luck or vision, and because the ratings of Prison Break are not explosive, at least the ace dramas of several TV networks can overwhelm it and not be taken seriously. But when Firefly Pictures made another move and reaffirmed its TV drama production capabilities, many people could not sit still. After the specific screening data of The Walking Dead was counted, it was like a breeze that quickly blew across the entire film and television industry. Countless phone rings rang, and many people communicated and negotiated with each other. In this era, people have a wide range of audio-visual entertainment channels, so it is not very common to have more than 20 million audiences chasing dramas. And those who can achieve such results are either the pillars of several TV networks or the popular dramas that have accumulated several years of fame. What is even more rare is that the second project that Firefly Pictures has come up with in the TV series production not only exceeds the previous one, but also has a high audience reputation. You know, even HBO can only have a similar project every few years, and it is carefully selected from countless ideas in the industry. As soon as The Walking Dead came out, it directly rose to the ranks of ace projects, and directly brought in more than 5 million new paying people. So, as the most critical person to cause all this, Lyman is still leading the preparations for the Mist project, and he has to spare energy to respond to these tireless calls. The first one was from Barry Meir himself. Barry Meir briefly talked about the good ratings of The Walking Dead, and then hoped that Lyman could make time. HBO executive Rupert wanted to meet Lyman in person. Then the two chatted for more than 10 minutes, and the words were still about deepening cooperation. He wanted to invest in Firefly and promised Warner Group that he would maintain the autonomy of Firefly Pictures and would not interfere in personnel management. Lyman said a few vague words before hanging up the phone. After putting down the phone, Lyman had not had time to carefully think about the news brought by Barry Meir, and the phone rang continuously. The second one was Garsha, the third was Gyro, and then the fourth, the fifth. For more than an hour, Lyman spent time answering the phone repeatedly. It was not until lunch at noon that he had a reason to refuse and turn off the phone, and the whole world was quiet. Anyway, Lyman has encountered similar situations before. When the movie was selling well, he always received harassing calls from these profit seekers. To put it bluntly, when others recognize your strength, opportunities and cooperation will always automatically gather around you. Just like when Pixar Animation Studios first showed its innovative animation expression methods in the 3D animated feature film Toy Story, its market value increased from more than 20 million to the current valuation of tens of billions, and Disney still values it the most and has always wanted to acquire it. Moreover, the purpose of these people calling, in addition to congratulations from the Firefly headquarters staff, is to cooperate or to get the broadcast rights of The Walking Dead. Chapter 468. Continue to deepen the influence. Please subscribe, vote. According to the production rules of the TV drama circle, HBO only purchased the pilot rights of the first season of The Walking Dead for safety reasons, and the right of first refusal for the sequel rights. This contract is no secret to some people. Now, the new series has achieved such amazing results just after it was launched. Even if the ratings will fluctuate in the future, there is a base of more than 27 million audiences. Even if the quality declines in the future, the ratings will not be too bad. Not to mention how heated the discussion was after the first episode. In this case, other TV stations are indifferent to this situation, so there is no need to continue competing with Warner Group in the field of television. These people are indeed very powerful. In just a few hours, they found representatives and expressed their intentions to the management of Firefly Pictures. NBC, in addition to negotiating subsequent copyrights, also hopes to cooperate together. ABC and Fox are similar. CBS even found the company's president Benjamin to lobby. After all, Sony Entertainment Group behind CBS is also the parent company of Columbia Pictures, so it is not surprising that they can contact them. In fact, Lyman did have his own estimates for the performance of The Walking Dead, because under the operation of the multifaceted interactive leverage of the zombie theme he formulated, because of the name of New York Trip, plus the quality of the TV series itself, after HBO's careful promotion, it will definitely arouse the curiosity of the public. At least, this gimmick has been established. Therefore, Lyman previously thought that the ratings would break 5, otherwise it would be a shame for all his efforts for this series. But the actual subscription viewing of more than 27 million people still surprised Lyman greatly. HBO is not a public channel, and you can't search for programs without subscription. Although the American dramas they broadcast are excellent, they rarely break 5, and reaching 6 is also rare for the 5 major TV networks. In this way, it is not difficult to imagine the pursuit of everyone in the circle. After all, a rough calculation shows that it is a project involving hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, and some TV stations have not been able to operate one for several years. In today's newspapers, there are already big bold headlines such as The Walking Dead, highly popular in ratings, and 27 million subscribers, and all kinds of comments are also appearing in front of people. Seen, who discriminates against women, but has his own opinions. Rick, a responsible and courageous leader. After only one episode, the work produced by Lyman Lost in Gyro has created a desolate and terrifying doomsday society for us with those imaginative plots and extremely realistic shots. The audience has fallen in love with this fictional story and the somewhat controversial characters in just 1 hour. A story with a sophisticated and dramatic setting can attract the audience's love. The Walking Dead has once again proved this with more than 27 million first-run subscribers. When the audience can see the doomsday world after the outbreak of the zombie virus on TV, it is hard not to look forward to how the story will develop and what will be the fate of several characters. This is perhaps the most important factor in the success of this TV series. Lyman Lost is worthy of being a talented filmmaker. The plot writing has firmly grasped the audience's appetite as soon as it was revealed. The New York Review also wrote, "There has never been such a strange thing." Since the premiere of The Walking Dead, it has not only attracted the strong attention of fans of The Walking Dead, but also those who do not often watch movies are full of interest in this drama. For the TV drama circle, the influence of market share is reflected in the ratings. If a TV station suddenly has a popular drama in a certain quarter, it will definitely not be good news for the other TV stations. It also means a decrease in revenue. Therefore, this time, the senior executives of several major TV networks regretted not offering higher cooperation conditions to fight for the broadcast rights of The Walking Dead, and they also quickly launched remedial measures. For example, the recompetition for the copyright of the second season of The Walking Dead is not a waste of time, even if it means paying a high penalty for breach of contract for Firefly Pictures. And what these people can think of, whether it is HBO executives or Barry Meir, the helmsman of Warner Group, can definitely think of it. Although Lyman's Prison Break had brought good benefits to Warner Group in the past, they didn't really attach much importance to it. So they didn't set very harsh breach of contract conditions for the broadcasting rights of The Walking Dead. After all, if the value is not much, no one will breach the contract. But this time it's different. The value brought by The Walking Dead is easy to fight for. In addition, several major TV networks have also considered developing paid channels, and have been eager to do so in recent years. The bloody and violent nature of The Walking Dead is also the best carrier for cable pay series. Therefore, whether for the purpose of expanding business or squeezing Warner, everyone needs to test Lemon's ideas. So, when Lemon just agreed to the invitation of some people to meet, many media also received the news. Speaking of which, he let the company leak this news. After calculating the timing, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, many people had already arrived at the headquarters of Firefly Pictures. Most of these people are managers of several major TV networks, and they all know each other. After seeing each other's actions, they also understood the purpose of others. So, when Lemon arrived at the company, they all came up to him. "Mr. Lemon, I'm the deputy director of the ABC purchasing department. Mr. Lemon, we've met before. I'm from NBC. Mr. Lemon." Lemon smiled and shook hands with the chattering people one by one. When they were a little quiet, he finally said, "I'm so sorry. Can we talk later? I need to think about it." Of course, the people couldn't leave willingly because of Lemon's words. They spoke again to emphasize, but when they saw that Lemon was no longer speaking, they didn't dare to pester him too much. After all, Lemon was not only a director, but also the owner of a film company with good performance. Moreover, he had close contacts with several capitals, and now he had even attracted investment institutions other than local forces such as Germany and the United Kingdom. In other words, he had no shortage of channels for content monetization, as long as he wanted. After Lemon left, he discussed with Benjamin, and asked him to continue to guide the media to build momentum. As for those who came earlier, they waited for a while, before reporting the news in disappointment and hurriedly drove away. Perhaps this incident will bring many opportunities to Firefly. Chapter 469 Waiting for a Price. Subscriptions. Vote. In the spacious office, Lemon recalled the situation just now and immediately ordered, "Benjamin, in the next 2 days, you will help me sort out various materials about major TV stations and the 6 major media groups behind them." "No problem, but this may take some time." Benjamin Joseph nodded. "No hurry, you slowly collect information. The most important thing is to be accurate." "I understand, Mr. Lemon. What else do we need to do now?" Lemon said without thinking. "Wait, we are not the ones who are impatient." He originally wanted to slowly build momentum in the TV network, but who would have thought that The Walking Dead would become a big hit, triggering the pursuit of TV stations. Also, regarding the arrangements for the next few days, if it is about the invitation from HBO or Warner, find an excuse to help me turn it down. If other TV stations are interested, please contact them for conditions. Benjamin nodded. He actually knew that Lemon wanted to wait for the price among several TV stations to maximize his interests. After all, Firefly Pictures once again proved its excellent content production capabilities, and no matter how wide the channels of several major TV networks are, they are castles in the air without the support of content. But what if Barry Meir comes in person? He won't. Lemon laughed. "I've been in contact with him for so long. He rarely doesn't take the lead, and this time they must have heard that CBS, NBC, ABC, and several other companies are interested in inviting him. If he comes at this time, doesn't it seem that they are a little anxious? If that's the case, wouldn't it be like handing the knife to me, so that I can cut it hard? Do you think he will do that?" Benjamin nodded, didn't ask any more questions, and quickly said goodbye and left. Afterwards, his private phone was bombarded again, so Lemon had to answer it for an hour or two in a row, just like the morning when the ratings of The Walking Dead were just released. He planned to contact several major TV networks first to show enough gestures to make HBO feel a sense of urgency, and then discuss the deal. Although the other major TV networks were very enthusiastic, Lemon had no intention of changing the TV broadcast platform for The Walking Dead from the beginning. After all, HBO is the only cable pay channel. Compared with other cable pay channels, HBO does not attach importance to the cable field. It is more like a conservative who clings to the glory of the past and refuses to open up the market. Even if they can lower their status and cooperate with Lemon, they will inevitably make many restrictions on the scale of the content. But HBO is different. They are synonymous with yellow, violent, and dirty. Lemon knows how much room for improvement HBO has in its development in the past, and it has directly become the most valuable TV brand in Warner Group. But except for Lemon, even HBO's executives may not know this. Facing several other TV networks entering the cable pay field, it is also impossible for HBO to have enough confidence in the market. In this case, the popular The Walking Dead is of course a good bargaining chip, and its importance is also extraordinary. The first thing Lemon did the next day was to visit the crew of The Walking Dead. Several actors also knew that they were going to be popular, and they were full of enthusiasm for filming. At noon, under the matchmaking of Disney's vice president, he had lunch with the president of the department of ABC TV who came to Los Angeles specially. In the evening, he met with a senior executive of CBS, and the next day he had a meeting with the president of NBC. It must be said that the prices offered by the major TV networks were very generous. They did not even mention a plan to buy out the series at a flat price. The direct condition was to participate in the TV station's advertising share. And unlike WB, the ratio offered by the other party was quite good, not a miserable 20% share. At the same time, they all revealed their intention to intercept HBO and win the rights to broadcast the second season of The Walking Dead, and were willing to pay the penalty. Through these contacts, Lemon also found that the major TV networks all had cable pay channels, but because they overlapped with cable TV channels, the profit model was unclear, and they could not compete with HBO at all, so they left it alone and gave it few resources. And they were not unaware that HBO's subscribers had been increasing, cultivating many loyal viewers. But just like falling behind step by step, HBO began to develop cable pay as early as the 1980s. More than 20 years have passed, and a solid foundation has been laid. They are only now slowly exerting their strength, so how can they compete? In the past, Showtime was able to rise, relying on Shameless to cultivate a large number of drama fans, and was barely able to compete with HBO. But obviously, the current NBC Universal Group does not have such strength. Moreover, the competition between these TV networks is very fierce, and they also have various small thoughts on the matter of The Walking Dead. This also led to Lemon being able to profit from it calmly without being under too much pressure. If several companies put pressure on him, Lemon would definitely not consider the consequences of offending several TV giants at the same time, and would quickly hand over the broadcast rights of The Walking Dead. After meeting with all the companies, Lemon did not continue to delay, otherwise he would completely offend the Warner Group and the loss to Lemon would be greater. So he invited HBO to attend the celebration dinner of The Walking Dead in the name of the company. HBO also accepted the invitation. After all, what happened during this period of time, HBO could not be unaware, and the purpose of raising the price has been achieved. Several major TV networks want to cut in, but HBO will definitely not be willing to accept it. In the end, they can only go to court, and the first season of The Walking Dead will definitely not be able to be broadcast safely during this period. However, that is the purpose of those people fighting the lawsuit for half a year, using this time to destroy the great prospects of broadcasting, suppress HBO's momentum, and get a good TV project. Why not do it? As for Lemon, no matter how things develop, he will benefit. With the scale of several TV networks, the advertising fee share that can be obtained can at least increase by 15% in the Prison Break project. And if you look at the long term, they're all in the chess game. Why can't you change from a soldier who moves forward after crossing the river to a cannon that takes advantage of the situation, or a rook that is invincible? Since there is a good opportunity, why not work hard in this direction? Maybe you can grow into a chess player in the future. In the field of television, it is not impossible to intervene when the time is right. The advent of the internet age has given all ambitious people an opportunity to step onto the stage. After several years of accumulation, Lemon finally managed to gain a place in Hollywood. What he needed to fight for was more bargaining chips. In other words, he wanted to reduce his enemies and increase his friends. So, let's start from this time. Chapter 470 Negotiation, Subscriptions, Votes. On the coastal highway, a black Mercedes-Benz business car smoothly shuttled through the traffic. Eva, who was sitting in the passenger seat and wearing a white one-shoulder dress, took out a makeup mirror from time to time to check her makeup. "Lemon, can you help me check if there is any problem with the makeup on my face?" The girl looked at it and tidied up her bangs before turning her head to ask. Lemon held the steering wheel and looked at it, then quickly turned his head back. "Not bad. The dress is very delicate. Does it look good?" Eva asked with a smile. "I will appreciate it if I have time tonight." "Yeah." Eva heard the affirmation in Lemon's words and seemed very pleased, but the girl was not stupid. She quickly understood the other meaning of this sentence, and a blush appeared on her face. The celebration party of The Walking Dead chose a manor near Marbury. Early in the morning, the party organizer was contacted to prepare. When the Mercedes-Benz business car arrived at the door of the manor, Lemon handed the key to the waiter and walked into the manor with Eva. Upon hearing the news of Lemon's arrival, HBO CEO Morik Ruger, who had arrived earlier, also came over with a smile. Lemon looked at the middle-aged white man opposite him, who was less than 50 years old, but had considerable power in Hollywood. There was no doubt that Morik's ability to develop HBO's market value influence to such an extent was beyond doubt. At this time, he was wearing glasses, his hair was combed meticulously, and there was a gentle smile on the corner of his mouth. He did not see any majesty, but no one could underestimate him. While Lemon was looking at him, Morik was also carefully examining this young director who had become famous in just a few years. This process did not last for a few seconds, and the two people stretched out their hands at the same time. "Hello, Mr. Ruger, I'm Lemon last." Although the other party must know him, Lemon still introduced himself first out of courtesy. "Hello, Lemon." Morik shook hands with Lemon and then turned to Eva. "This must be the beautiful French rose, Miss Eva Green. Your several works are very outstanding." Well, the French rose was called by the local media when New York Trip was released in France. It was the first time for Eva to be praised like this in front of her boyfriend, not to mention the other person's identity. She showed a slightly shy expression and stretched out her hand to shake the other person's hand. "Thank you, Mr. Ruger." After the courtesy, Lemon winked at Eva. Eva also understood that the two had something to talk about and took the initiative to walk in. Looking at his girlfriend's figure leaving, Lemon said again, "Mr. Ruger, let's go in too." There were about 20 guests in the manor at this moment, and as time went by, more people came one after another. In addition to the main creative team and behind-the-scenes staff of The Walking Dead, Lemon also asked CAA to bring many Hollywood stars to show their support. Although Morik had been anxiously dragged by Lemon these 2 days, he also suppressed his emotions and did not immediately make an appointment. He took the initiative to talk about other topics. "Lyman, you are 27 years old this year, right?" Morik asked inexplicably. Lemon nodded. He had celebrated his 27th birthday in November last year. Speaking of which, since he came here, he didn't care much about birthdays and other occasions. "You are really young and promising." When Spielberg was 27, he was still shooting short films to practice. "Maybe, in the future, it will really be you young people who will rule the world." Lemon laughed a few times, not knowing how to respond. He couldn't say that he also spent a long time accumulating experience on the set. After Morik finished speaking, he changed the subject. "Lyman, is the mist about to start filming?" "Yes, the preparations are almost completed, and filming will start in a week at most. The time is still quite tight," Lemon hinted. Morik pretended not to understand and said, "Lyman, speaking of which, several of your projects are in cooperation with Warner. We have always gotten along very well, haven't we?" "Of course, this is a win-win situation." Lemon shrugged, implying that Morik's emotional card was useless. If it was Berrymere, it would be the same. At the beginning, with the strong publicity and promotion of Warner, he had enough financial strength to develop Firefly Pictures, and also acquired Blue Butterfly Pictures, and had his own North American channels. But Lemon didn't think he owed anything. Just like Paramount helped him gain a firm foothold in Hollywood, he returned tens of millions of box office profits of American TV series to Paramount, and helped Shirley Lansing regain the trust of the board of directors. Warner has never suffered any loss in the cooperation. The total revenue of New York Trip is at least $400 million, and Firefly Pictures only took less than $170 million from it. Speaking of it, Warner's basically around this number, excluding the publicity and promotion expenses, is simply making money without any risk. Morik originally wanted to try to get close to him, but he was directly rejected like this. Even his face, that had seen a lot of things, flashed a trace of embarrassment. Lyman, I heard that people from other TV stations have approached you? Yes, the conditions they seek for cooperation are very attractive. Morik was a little irritated. He suddenly realized that the young man in front of him was not in line with his appearance, but his mental age was not matched. If he continued to waste time like this, Lemon would definitely not give in first. So, let's get straight to the point. Lyman, how about this? HBO will increase the subscription share of Firefly to 35% starting from the second season, as long as they can sign the broadcasting rights for the next few seasons. HBO is willing to give some benefits to its allies. However, Lemon shook his head and said, Mr. Ruger, is this the sincerity that HBO shows? The television industry is different from the film industry. Since TV stations are not bound by relevant antitrust laws, they can produce their own programs and be self-sufficient. How can outsiders have bargaining power? Therefore, TV platforms are used to being strong. 10 years ago, TV series were bought out, or at a fixed price. The ratings were not within the consideration of TV stations. Now, these platforms will only give up a small part of their profits, which is simply harsh compared to the film industry. At least, in the film industry, it often happens that the producers take the lion's share. Mr. Ruger, The Walking Dead can help HBO attract a large number of new subscribers and consolidate its paid market. Even without mentioning the recognition from old users, the extremely high ratings of over 27 million viewers this season can also make HBO a lot of money. Compared with these, do you think Firefly Pictures can meet the price you just offered compared to what HBO can get? Morik stared at Lemon and said, the offer just now is already a condition that other producers cannot get. What do you think? I just want it to be a little fairer. Chapter 471 Achievement, Subscriptions, Vote. Lyman, tell me your terms. What will HBO pay to get all the subsequent broadcast rights of The Walking Dead? As soon as the voice fell, the atmosphere became a little tense. Lyman thought for a while and chuckled. Mr. Ruger, if you know me a little, you will know that I'm not a very excessive person. I have always pursued a win-win situation, so I will be satisfied if both parties can be a little fair. Morik cursed in his heart. You said so much, but you didn't give a definite answer. Isn't it excessive? However, Morik hesitated for a while and said again, 40%? How about it? This is already the highest cooperation condition offered by HBO. Add the offline copyright operation income. What do you think? No, 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 this is not fair. Fair? Haha. Lyman pulled the corner of his mouth lightly and asked directly, Mr. Ruger, how much profit do you think HBO will make this year? Morik's heart suddenly jumped, thinking that his calculations had been discovered. But Lemon was still talking. Last year, HBO's year-end financial report was released, and the TV drama business alone had more than $2.3 billion. Excluding daily expenses, management expenses and market development, there was at least more than $700 million in net profit. Moreover, these revenues increased by 13% compared with the previous year, and they were also the revenue from new user subscriptions. I personally think that HBO's main priority should be to maintain the stickiness of subscribers. It just so happens that The Walking Dead can help HBO further expand its new user base and maintain the stickiness of old users. Compared with other platforms, HBO needs this more. Mr. Ruger, what do you think? Morik heard Lemon's summary, and his luck was completely shattered. Wasn't it because of the good broadcast prospects of The Walking Dead that he rushed here so eagerly? Ratings are important, but chasing new users is HBO's first need. Lyman, but your conditions are still too harsh. It's hard for the board to pass them. Based on the current performance, the profit of The Walking Dead must be over $300 million. With a 40% share plus copyright operation, even if it is calculated over a long period of time, it will not exceed 150 million. But for HBO, it not only makes a profit, but also expands the market. It is also a huge improvement for your own self-made drama business. In fact, HBO is not at a disadvantage, but is making a lot of money. Am I wrong? Of course, what Lemon said was not wrong. For HBO, the quality of a TV series is not a big deal. The market growth of the TV series business is the biggest gain. Morik was silent for a while before he said, I can agree to your conditions, but I need some promises to convince the board. What do you mean? Lemon asked in confusion. Let me put it this way. The cooperation between our two sides can be deepened. How about this? HBO can sign another contract with Firefly Pictures. You should also know that, even if you take this TV series to negotiate with other TV networks, all they can give is a little concession on the advertising share, which is not enough to get more. Therefore, a bargaining chip of The Walking Dead is not enough. You need, Morik pondered for a moment and stated his plan. Firefly Pictures needs to provide HBO with another excellent TV project before the bargaining chip for cooperation can be equal. Can you tell me more about it? Lemon said. Morik carefully thought out the contract. I know it's difficult for a TV series to reach the level of The Walking Dead. So let's do this. If the average ratings of the new TV project can reach 15 million subscribers, HBO will only account for 20% of the offline copyright of the new work. 20 million, only 10%, and it can exceed 25 million. The offline operation will also belong to Firefly Pictures, and the share will be 40%. However, if the new project performs too poorly, not only will it be cut in half, but the subsequent conditions of The Walking Dead will also be invalid. How about it? It must be said that Morik was very smart to tie Firefly Pictures to HBO's chariot and attached a cooperation clause similar to a gambling agreement. No matter what the result is, HBO will not suffer. Good results and increased market share are exactly what HBO needs. Poor results. Not only will HBO still occupy the majority of the revenue, but Firefly Pictures will also lose the initiative in the negotiation of the Walking Dead project. Unfortunately, the seemingly smart cooperation terms are secretly happy for Lemon. If it were other conditions, it might be difficult for him, but if it was content creation, isn't that what Firefly Pictures is best at? Let alone one. Even if it was 10 TV projects with good ratings, Lemon could come up with it if he thought about it carefully. After all, the American TV series that can flow into the mainland are so poor that the subtitle groups are too lazy to translate them. Aren't they all high quality American TV series? I can promise, Mr. Ruger. Lemon smiled and said, we can sign a contract first. If Firefly Pictures can't come up with a new series this year, the offline copyright will be calculated as it should be. Morik also smiled. The average ratings of TV series that can break 15 million viewers, all the TV stations in North America combined, do not exceed 15 a year. For HBO, their self-production ability is not bad, but only 3 to 4 a year, and most of them are sequels to those old hits. If you can get a brand new excellent American TV series project, even if you give a little more profit, what's the big deal? No one is stupid. This is certain. When Benjamin took the legal department to check the contract, he was still a little bit unbelievable. In addition to The Walking Dead, they also produced a high-quality American TV series that has at least broken 5 ratings. Their bosses took confident. Otherwise, this contract would be too harsh for Firefly. However, the greater the risk, the greater the return. If the bet is successful, then there will be a lot to gain. Although Benjamin Joseph has been the president of Firefly Pictures for a short time, he has seen good results in the company's production capabilities more than once. At least, none of the projects operated by the company have failed, which is simply unimaginable for other production companies. Therefore, after a brief surprise, he was inexplicably full of confidence. Lyman, the bank loan owed by the acquisition of Blue Butterfly Pictures may be repaid in the next 2 months. Lemon put away the contract and smiled at Benjamin. Of course, our goal is to become a new media giant. This is nothing. His tone was half joking and half serious. but Benjamin Joseph only heard the joke and showed a look of surprise at the right time. In his heart, he has always been thinking about the first film company under the six majors. The performance of Firefly Pictures has allowed Benjamin to enjoy the power desire outside Columbia. This goal is not impossible to achieve. Chapter 472 Distribution Direction, Subscriptions, Vote. The day after the contract was signed, Rick Ruger could not wait to use Warner Group's media resources to announce the news that it would continue to cooperate with Firefly Pictures. At the same time, it also stated that not only would The Walking Dead be broadcast on HBO, but the two sides would also maintain a closer cooperative relationship. As soon as the news came out, the major TV networks that were originally competing for the project rushed to develop their own projects. At 8 p.m. on January 22nd, the second episode of The Walking Dead premiered. At the beginning of the scene and Rick's wife Lori were dating in the woods. It turned out that when Rick was in a coma in the hospital, zombies raided the town, and it was Scene who protected Lori to escape. During the escape, he gradually developed a good impression. Because Rick was not there, his life and death were uncertain, and the plot with a hint of green happened naturally. On the other side, after Rick killed the zombie little girl, the gunshot attracted the surrounding zombies. In a hurry, he hid in a tank. He was trapped inside and desperately wanted to commit suicide. Glenn appeared, contacted Rick through the radio, and helped him escape. In the original work, the Asian character Glenn was played by Korean actor Steven Yeun. In this version, Lyman chose the Chinese, who had been acting for 5 years and often played the role of a thief and a villain. Speaking of which, American stereotypes and racial discrimination are not a day or two. Then, Glenn took Rick to a department store and met several survivors. On the rooftop, the white old man Moore was dissatisfied with the team for taking in a black man and a Chinese and used force to force them. But Rick took out a pistol and interrupted him and locked Moore on the rooftop with handcuffs. At this moment, more and more zombies gathered at the door of the department store. There was a lack of water and food, and Rick began to lead everyone to find ways to escape. While everyone was chatting, Rick and others summed up some rules of zombies. First, if a living person is bitten, he will be infected quickly. Second, he has strong vitality, and any fatal injury is useless except for destroying the brain of the nerve center. Third, he will be attracted by loud noises, and he has the ability to distinguish human blood, and his vision is almost non-existent. So, a scene that is even more awesome than the exciting shot of NTR at the beginning came. Rick let a zombie in from the side door of the building and chopped the zombie into pieces with a fire axe and smeared the almost black zombie blood on everyone. Rick was ready and tried it, and sure enough, the gathered zombies did not notice their existence. Several people walked out along the road, carefully all the way, but because they made a little noise when they were looking for a vehicle to start, they were chased by zombies again. They continued to flee, and Moore, who was locked on the rooftop, and the black man who stayed behind were also sweating for him in their hearts. But when they saw Rick, and others still drove away smoothly, the two began to panic, thinking they were abandoned. The relationship between the two was not good, but the black man was reluctant to leave Moore, who had beaten him, alone on the rooftop, and wanted to hand over the keys. After a lot of trouble, Rick drove back. Accompanied by cheerful music and cheers during racing, the distant camera was fixed on the initially formed protagonist group. The Walking Dead was also under the close attention of the audience, discussing the plot and other TV stations. After collecting the ratings statistics, Nielsen announced the results as soon as possible. The Walking Dead successfully defended the ratings champion in the same period. The average number of viewers in the second episode was 25.5 million, and the highest number of viewers still reached more than 27 million. Seeing this data, several TV stations also analyzed the factors of the huge success of The Walking Dead. In addition to the novel plot and excellent production, the most important thing is the linkage with the movie New York Trip. Of course, this may also be related to the director's camera shooting ability. After all, few movie directors have turned to TV production. Just like Band of Brothers produced by Spielberg in 2001, it was also a huge success. The addition of such a powerful film director is also a publicity gimmick for the audience. Being able to see the work of a film director outside the cinema will certainly arouse the curiosity of the audience. Under various factors, there is such a hot audience rating. However, even if we understand these, what's the use? In the end, it's still a problem of content production. The more important newspaper media also praise The Walking Dead as always. Lemon is now in the office with a copy of the New York Daily and reading the entertainment section. According to the specific data collected by Nielsen, The Walking Dead added more than 2 million new subscribers in the second week of broadcast. There is no doubt that HBO is a big winner in this cooperation. As for the producer Firefly Pictures, internal sources revealed that the broadcast rights of the first season of this TV series can bring them more than $80 million in revenue just for the first round of broadcasts. Not to mention that once the new gambling agreement is signed, if it can be reached, the subsequent offline copyright operation can bring considerable income, which is not less than the income of HBO directly purchasing the broadcast rights in the long run. However, the production investment of this series is less than $40 million, and Lemon Last, a successful film director in Hollywood, is still continuing his success. A TV series with a profit of about $100 million makes people look forward to his subsequent actions. After reading this article in the New York Daily, Lemon couldn't help but think for a moment. In terms of input and output, after deducting the studio share of gyro and director's ACK and some performance rewards of the main creators behind the scenes, the first season of The Walking Dead actually made Firefly Pictures only $70 million in net profit. After all, it costs money to run a company. The returns are very high, and the net profit left is just about the same as a hit movie. However, the copyright of the TV series is still a long-term wealth in the United States where it is well protected. It is also very good for Blue Butterfly Pictures, which can take over the offline DVD market distribution. If you continue to follow up on the distribution market, even if there are not too many media resources for publicity, the need for close contact with the market is also an important distribution experience for a company that has just started like Blue Butterfly. There is a long way to go. Lemon wrote and drew on the memo beside him. Yahoo, Microsoft, Twitter. The rise of new online publicity resources may be the future of Blue Butterfly Pictures, which cannot control newspaper media. Of course, there is also the neglected streaming media. Lemon is more confident than anyone that the future film and television explosion point is on the internet. However, Firefly Pictures is still too weak now, with insufficient capital reserves, and cannot support the growth of streaming media terminals. The time is not yet ripe. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473 Hatton Town. Subscriptions. Votes required. January 24th. Lemon and the crew rushed to the town of Hatton, Ohio. This is the main location for the film, and basically 80% of the scenes in the film will be filmed in the town. After arriving at the destination at 3 p.m., Lemon first took the person in charge of the location group to say hello to the mayor of the town, and also reserved a part of the funds on the grounds of supporting the maintenance and construction of the town. In other words, spending this $100,000 in exchange for care during filming. Otherwise, any trivial incident can affect the crew. They booked several hotels in the town and made a little decoration, which became temporary residences. Seeing the crew still arranging the filming equipment, and the tired actors carrying their assistants and agents, and moving their luggage into various rooms, Lemon clapped his hands and said, "Everyone settle down first, and gather on time tomorrow morning. Don't be late." After giving the order, Lemon asked Blake next to him, "Have the people from Digital Domain arrived?" "Yes, they have built a studio over there, and are mapping on the spot, and collecting various data. The crew of the Mist needs to spend nearly $12 million for this special effects rendering. For a small workshop like Digital Domain, it is a big business that is hard to come by. After all, there are many special effects studios on the market, and Industrial Light and Magic is the most famous. Although I don't know why Lemon chose to subcontract the work, it does not affect Digital Domain's great importance to this cooperation. At this moment, two small container trucks were parked on the open space at the entrance of the town. Under the command of the staff, in addition to the crew who were still dismantling the equipment, Digital Domain was also moving various equipment. Afterwards, Lyman took Thomas, the art team, the lighting team, and Blake, one of the producers, and other main crew leaders to the Digital Domain staff one by one. This is considered an acquaintance. If there are any problems during the filming, you can consult with these people. As the few people chatted, a digital technician named Scott Bryant saw that Lyman was curious about some surveying equipment and smiled and introduced Director Lyman. In order to cooperate with the shooting of the Mist crew and the required lens effects, we are very well prepared to ensure that all the requirements you put forward can be met. As he spoke, he carefully explained the operating essentials of the equipment to the few people. In fact, this time Digital Domain can send so many technicians to join the group to cooperate throughout the process, which is their greatest sincerity. In the temporary rental house in the town, Lyman is directing the staff to set up the scene. This will be the starting location of the Mist and the shooting location of the first shot. Nicolas Cage and his uncle's old partner Al Pacino generally have a standard method performance style. This type of actor pays attention to integrating the emotions of the character into himself and then showing it. So if the shooting order is upside down, it will definitely affect Cage's coherent performance. In order to better show the character changes of the protagonist David, Lyman decided to shoot in chronological order. The first scene of the original film was David painting in his own courtyard. This scene introduced the identity of the male protagonist through several paintings and laid the groundwork for the subsequent plot. Lyman discussed with Thomas and decided to shoot from the beginning to introduce the character. I went to Burbank again the day before yesterday. Warner still has doubts about the release of our film in mid-April. If we enter the promotion stage, we will only have 2 months to shoot if we ensure that the film will not be delayed. Moreover, the April schedule is too unpopular, which will not be sufficient for the film's screening market potential. Lyman was writing notes on the shooting plan with the storyboards. When he heard what Blake said, he thought about it and said, 2 months is enough. As for why April was chosen, it is also because there is not much competition. You see, Warner will release Batman Begins in the summer, and I will release The Mist in March. We can't wait until the end of the summer to release The Mist. Besides, The Mist doesn't cost much to produce, and it doesn't require a very good schedule. Blake nodded, suddenly remembered something, and smiled. Are you going to attend the Golden Globe Awards in February? I heard that $1 Million Baby will receive a lot of nominations. Lyman also laughed. I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, the Oscars have their pride, and they will never give me the Best Director award. However, even if the Oscar judges are reluctant, they will pinch their noses and give the film a few nominations. After all, we even won the Palme d'Or in Cannes. The support is so high, they can't just turn a blind eye. According to the public relations route arranged by Warner, the most important energy was placed on the Best Actor and Best Actress awards under Lyman's persuasion. Because of age and qualifications, no one has won the Best Director award with 1 nomination, and Lyman does not have other expectations for the Oscars. Blake probed, the crew's shooting schedule is so tight, do we still have time to attend the public relations dinner? Don't worry, Lyman packed up the folder, and then said, then we will stop shooting, and squeeze out time to attend the dinner. If I refuse some good intentions, because of filming a movie, I may be hated by those old stubborn people without knowing it. Thinking about Leo's big talk, and ignoring the Oscar judges, which led to the embarrassment of being a runner-up now, Lyman didn't want to turn over in such a small matter. A group of old men from the old times. Leo was just the one who refused to attend the Oscars, because he was not nominated for the Best Actor in Titanic. Although he was a little proud, he was not played with like this. However, if there were no Oscars, what influence would these people have in Hollywood? If they could not embody authority, wouldn't everyone look down on them? Once this head is opened, it can't be taken back. The two chatted while arranging the shooting site. After having dinner together nearby in the evening, Lyman went back to the hotel and took out the script to make some minor changes. The plot of The Mist is a typical Cthulhu system structure. That is, the greatest fear does not come from monsters, but from the indescribable unknown. In the process of exploring the truth, the human mind gradually collapses. Unfortunately, the original version only filmed the latter, not the former. No wonder some people commented that it was a third-rate special effect, a second-rate actor, and a first-rate script. The leading actors are not really powerful. At least the characterization of the protagonist is too flat, without the kind of shocking tension. The addition of Cage also required Lyman to give his character more shots to achieve a similar effect. Chapter 474. Filming starts. Subscriptions. Vote. January 25th. The film The Mist officially started shooting. Based on the consideration of keeping the wealth within the family, many supporting roles in The Mist were selected from CAA. This is a benefit that Lyman has given to CAA and the cornerstone of maintaining a cooperative relationship. Otherwise, if CAA protects Lyman's personal interests wholeheartedly without asking for anything in return, Lyman will feel that they have a bigger intention. It is precisely because of this exchange of film and television resources that CAA has occupied half of the business of agents. After all, even if they get a small role in The Mist that may not even have lines, most of the small actors do not have the power to be selected and can only rely on the platform connections of major brokerage companies to get opportunities. The monopoly has always been the right to make rules. In a courtyard by the lake, the staff are ready. Lyman sits behind the director's monitor and makes an okay gesture to the script supervisor, and the shooting officially begins. The first scene of The Mist, the first shot, action. The script supervisor clicks on the clapperboard, and the various shooting teams on both sides start to move. In the camera, David, played by Cage, skillfully picked up the paintbrush, and from the various color dye trays in his hand, he chose the color he needed, and freely painted on the canvas in front of him. Soon, an image similar to a western cowboy emerged. His face was blurred, but the revolver on his belt was clear. Then, the camera panned to the left, and more finished paintings appeared under the camera. This is a long shot of nearly 1 minute, which is a great test of the filming team's assistant's ability. However, everyone in this team often cooperates, and everyone has a tacit understanding. Cage did not disappoint Lyman, and his movements were just right, as if he was really a painter obsessed with painting. Although there was no line, his rich and natural body movements were unhindered. Of course, these painting props were painted by professionals, and Cage was just pretending. And this shot is also an implicit tribute to Stephen King. The backgrounds of several paintings in it are scenes that appear frequently in the classic horror novels written by the old man. For example, in Carrie, or the twin evil spirits in The Shining. After Cage put down his brush and stood up, Lyman shouted with satisfaction, "Cut." Nicolas Cage turned around and asked, "How is it? Do you want to do it again?" Lyman gave a thumbs up and praised, "No, the last one was very good, and it would be difficult to do better." After watching the playback again, and confirming that the shot was completely up to standard and there was no need to shoot again, Lyman clapped his hands and said, "Okay, prepare for the next shot immediately." Everyone dispersed, and Musa Jackson also came in to prepare for the next scene with Cage. Outside the courtyard, it was a mess. It was a rainy night and the tragic scene after the strong wind passed. This scene was shot of David and his neighbor, the black lawyer played by Musa, going to the supermarket in town to buy some daily necessities. After such a big storm, the supermarket might be sold out. Although the set team and the courtyard had made preliminary modifications, it still took more than half an hour to arrange the lighting and camera positions. After the reshoot, Lyman focused most of his attention on Samuel Jackson, who was performing for the first time. He had the most lines in this scene. Samuel's image was also very different from the original Andrew Brower. The black lawyer he portrayed paid more attention to the changes in tone, and his temperament was more rational and objective, with less complex changes in expression and less body language. In fact, this is more in line with the script of an upper-class elite with higher education, and the character setting does not need to be too exposed when performing. Therefore, Samuel's performance looks more natural. Even if he quarrels with David over a small matter, he tries to convince him with reason instead of shouting and covering the volume. However, even if the leading actor is in a hot state, various problems will also occur during the shooting process. Cut. After shooting for a while, Lyman quickly called a pause. "Director, is there any problem?" Muscle was just speaking the lines, and he asked puzzledly, after being called to pause. He thought that he had just acted with Cage and he did not make any mistakes. Lemon shook his head. It's not your problem. Keep going. After saying that, he looked at a small actor who was inserted by CAA, who played David's wife in the movie. Are you an outsider? I'm sorry, Director Lemon, I was wrong. No matter what, admit your mistakes first. This is the survival rule of small actors in the crew. Your husband is arguing with your neighbor, and you just stand by and pretend you didn't hear it, as if it doesn't matter. If it happens in real life, what should you do as a wife? The brown-haired girl, who is nearly 30 years old, blushed slightly when she was told. Because there are very few portrayals of small roles like her in the script, she doesn't know whether she should add to the play. Making some actions in unregulated scenes will inevitably attract the camera, and some directors care about whether the actors have completed their roles according to the script. But obviously, Lemon is not. Although she was told off, she was somewhat happy to explain. Should I interrupt with a frown? Yes, ma'am. You should interrupt their conversation and then ask them to go to the supermarket quickly to advance the plot. Understand? Anyway, you need to conform to the attitude of a wife, and your own yard was destroyed by the storm. Your mood should be bad, and your tone should be mainly complaining. I understand, Director Lemon. I will do it well. After adding a few more lines, the degree of the play on the screen was greatly increased, and even if they were scolded, they were willing. After Lemon returned to the monitor, he directed everyone to reshoot again. The effect this time was much better than the previous one, but it still failed because there was a small problem with the crew's recording work. Then it was shot again. Ohio is relatively cold in January. A group of people left the warm indoors and moved to shoot outdoor scenes. The cold wind blew past, and it was a little painful when it hit my face. It seemed that my face was blown stiff. But this is the crew's daily shooting. Filming is often done in the opposite seasons. It is normal to shoot summer scenes in winter and winter scenes in summer. You can't just shoot in the season specified in the script. Scheduling is a big hassle, and no crew has the time to wait. The scenes in the courtyard only lasted for 6 minutes, but it took 3 days to shoot. On January 28th, the crew moved to the supermarket, which is the center of the story. Chapter 475 Impermanence, Subscriptions, Votes Required. In a supermarket in the west of the town, people were coming and going in the slightly decorated venue. Lemon stood in the corner, watching the camera lens pointed at Cage, and then a woman with her head down walked in, and the supermarket cashier showed a disgusted expression. Cut. Lemon picked up the megaphone and shouted, "This one passed." Nicolas Cage stepped back and sat on the chair next to him, waiting for someone to touch up his macup. His assistant took 2 bottles of water and handed them to Cage and Eva, who had just acted with him. "Well done, Eva." Lemon gave a thumbs up from a distance. This is also Lemon's usual style. When it comes to actors, there is always more praise than criticism. After all, even if you lose your temper, it will not help the filming, except to make yourself feel better. And Eva's performance has improved a lot compared to before. Especially when the character is a bit evil, she has a kind of indifference from the bones, and a kind of moving beauty. Just like the split of her role itself, Lemon chose Eva to play, because she is suitable. He likes the process of shaping the character's temperament. The religious fanatic played by Eva should be like a cone piercing the audience's heart. They hate the character, but cannot ignore her. It's the god of death. The messenger sent by God to punish the world. In the chaos, Eva stepped forward and shouted loudly. David raised his head slightly and kept backing away while protecting his son. The thick fog swallowed up another group of survivors. Everyone witnessed the tragedy, and panic spread further among the trapped people in the supermarket. This, in turn, contributed to Eva's firm belief. From the moment she explained it out loud, everything was different again. This plot can be called the turning point of the whole film. There is a reason why The Mist has achieved box office success, won good reputation, and is included in most horror movie lists. Stephen King only used an extremely clever setting to write the crazy performance of anarchism. Just like the experiment in The Prisoner's Dilemma, the indescribable monster in the fog is equivalent to putting the residents of the town in an environment without laws and rules. Friends and neighbors who get along day and night will gradually become strangers. The mist is not as tough as the grudge, that directly hits the heart with terror and invades the psychological defense zone of every audience, but emphasizes the trembling of the soul caused by the strange terror from the outside world. What's more interesting is that in troubled times, human nature is exposed and religion is rampant. The transformation of the trapped people's mentality is also based on the transformation of the promotion between the religious fanatics played by Eva. The first time was shortly after the beginning of the film. An old man ran into the supermarket shouting that something was hidden in the thick fog. At that moment, everyone in the supermarket was still very rational. The black lawyer played by Samuel, as a representative, was still warning the old man not to spread rumors. The second time was in front of everyone. Several people were swallowed by the thick fog. In the end, only half of the body was left when they were tied up and dragged back with a rope. The rationalists were shattered by reality and became blind followers. The belief characteristics of this group have been annihilated. They only hope to stand in the team of the strongest who can be seen. Seeking asylum is the only judgment that blind followers can make in the threat of thick fog. The third time was when a small number of monsters broke through the supermarket and the theists rose completely. Religious fanatics also transformed themselves from being hated by the residents of the town to becoming leaders and saviors of the people. When the society was stable, her world was only about religion. She abandoned humanity and the Bible and became superstitious. Everyone was annoyed by her preaching all the time. But when she really faced fear, her faith was the strongest. In her opinion, this was just a test from God. She psychologically confirmed her identity as a servant of God and even wanted to please the God of death with a living sacrifice. So, although she always mentioned God, her behavior was similar to that of the devil. She once burned to death the believers who were regarded as religious heretics Bruno, and the soldiers who were incited to the crusades. Countless histories have witnessed how bloodthirsty the people who have lost the shackles of reason and are controlled by some extreme thinking will be. Just like the opening of Pandora's box, religion, the outer garment of human civilization, is also a prediction of the evil side of human nature to the greatest extent. The power of Stephen King's novel lies in the fact that it is obviously about a very cliched monster attack, but it writes about the incomparably deep human nature. The fog will eventually dissipate, but people's hearts will never have an outlet. As for the male protagonist, he is the embodiment of typical American heroism. He is never blind, superstitious, or extreme. Except for the theists, who want to sacrifice his son alive, he rarely jumps out to guide anything. He just uses actions to try to escape again and again. In other words, in the dark forest system, he is neither a hunter nor a prey, but a bystander outside the rules. In the first stage, when both the good guys and the reckless guys died, he did not interfere, so the soldier who was killed was pushed out by public anger. In the second stage, everyone began to stand in line, divided into gangs and killed each other, and then the big theists swallowed up the atheists and absorbed most of the blind followers. The protagonist still did not come out, but had to. Someone in the team shot and killed the religious leader, and the theists who had just become a big trend were scattered. In the third stage, extinction, or rebirth. Because once the survival resources are reduced below the safety line, the dark forest will appear. This is a sociological law that will not be transferred by human will. Death is inevitable, and survival is accidental. The fear of the mist lies in the impermanence of an unknown fate. The first woman who rushed out of the supermarket to find her child eventually survived. The black lawyer's faith collapsed, and she fled with people, but became a feast for monsters. Religion rose, and even the monsters did not hurt her, but she died in a sneak attack. The soldier who survived alone did not commit suicide, but died at the hands of the people he protected. Many blind followers kept changing camps, not knowing what happened, what to do, whether to believe in theology or science, and not knowing whether they would live or die tomorrow. They just didn't know anything, and subconsciously followed the emergence of one leadership after another. Who cares what the fence sitters think when the wind blows over them? No one cares. They don't care themselves. Just like people will unconsciously crush a few ants with one foot, it doesn't matter what the ants are doing. And what does death or immortality have to do with the ants? Finally, in this cold and indifferent supermarket, in the area of the Bible, a group of people are still longing for the sun to rise. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.